hope that people will lobby for that, because it's a really important way to break up the mega block, and it's, for people like me that live on Christie, it makes it a way to get from Christie Avenue to Shell Mound safely.
Thank you, John. I'm excited about the plans there and glad to hear your input here tonight. Looking forward to seeing you. Thank you. Robert?
I was going to put a plug in for the new Bike Share for All affordable membership materials that we have, some postcards on the table here. The goal was 1,000 low-income affordable Bike Share members signed up by the end of October, and we're just under that right now. So if you know anybody who might be interested in signing up, pass along one of those postcards to them. They can get signed up for $5 for the first year. Really great deal. And there's sign up info on the website that's linked on that postcard. Number two, I was going to also mention that Bikey Space Biketopia annual fundraiser is coming up this Thursday at the Hive in Broadway in Oakland. It's going to be an amazing event like usual with food, drinks, and amazing silent auction. If you want to find out about that, there's some postcards on the table too.
Thank you.
And the qualifications for low income?
Officially, anybody who qualifies for CalFresh food assistance, PG&E Care utility assistance, or
Okay, just any qualifying low
But
income.
there is some wiggle room, so even if somebody isn't signed up for those, they can still get in contact.
Okay, grab one of those black postcards if you want to pass it along to anybody, or...
Yeah, and $5 for the first year, which is pretty amazing. And the rides they get are 45 minutes.
60 for the low income
60 for the,
members.
45 for normal, like a fully paid member, and then 60-minute rides for the low-income members, which is nice.
Yeah, $5 a month.
$5 a month in subsequent years.
Okay.
All right, do we have any more members of the public that would like to speak? All right, moving on with item number 4, the approval of October 2nd regular meeting action. Minutes.
Please pass. And I apologize for wasting the second page of paper on hardly anything, but you can use it for note paper.
No.
I got 2.
That's very cool.
Did we do the letter to Powell Street on the last month? I feel like that was 2 months ago. Am I just tripping?
That's when it's first introduced.
Could be both.
Okay. Okay. So
We went over,
we went over the
changes,
changes.
edits.
Okay, okay.
So there's a typo in my name, there's no E in my last
Okay.
name.
oh yeah.
I think, is it, we have a staff member with the same name with the E on it, so
Oh,
keep getting
oh.
that mixed up. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Okay. We have a motion from Laura, second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes with a hand raise, say aye.
Is that everybody, or except for Celeste? Or-
That was a half hand up and then the hand up.
Oh, okay,
Everybody
okay.
unanimously.
I think we're okay.
All right.
Can I just ask one question? I'm sorry about the minutes. I'm a
We
little
just-
slow. I know we just approved it, but the staff announcements, it says members cannot miss more than 4 meetings. I thought it was more than 3 meetings.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, there was a correction, because actually 33% of 10 is 3.3 or,
Oh, so
So
if
it's
you
now
miss
deducted
4, it's
more than
okay,
three.
yeah, okay.
well, no, it's not
No.
okay.
But so if you miss 4, are you out? I just
Yes.
want to be totally clear.
Yes.
So you can miss 3.
Yes.
If you miss 4, you're
Right.
out.
Okay, but so this is incorrect then, what's in here?
No, this is right.
No, it said members cannot miss more than 4.
Oh,
It
right.
should say more than 3.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I will correct that, thank you. Which
Sorry.
number is that?
It's 6.3.
Got it.
Okay.
And that's excused or unexcused?
Yeah, it
Yes.
doesn't matter.
Yes.
3, yes. All right.
All right, so moving on to item number 5, we have our special information item for general plan transportation section review. And before Ryan gets started there, I just wanted to mention to the committee that this was an item that we did not agree on last meeting, but we added it because we felt like it was important for us to have some information about the general plan as we start to make recommendations with our wish list. And so this is an information item, so we'll receive a presentation about the general plan. And I think this is really important because we have some new members. I myself have never had this presentation, and I've been on the committee for a few years now. So really looking forward to hearing the transportation section.
Thanks for that intro. All right, yeah. Like you said, we have a few new members in the committee. We thought it was a great time, good timing to bring everyone together, give a little history, a lesson on the city's general plan, and what it means, like what the visions for our city's future that are in the general plan. So it's going to be helpful for new members, existing members, staff members. It's very helpful for me doing this setting up this presentation. I learned a lot too, so it's very helpful. It's going to be very relevant to your wish list exercise you guys have been doing for the past few meetings. I think it's something to kind of have on your mind as you look at your wish list. So as you're checking your wish list and your idea or your concern that you're bringing up for it, you should really also be checking if it's consistent with our general plan and goals and policies that we've set forth already in this city. And if it's not consistent with the general plan, try to find out why it's not consistent with the general plan and see what we can do there. It's not going to derail your idea or your concern at all, but it is something that you should be looking at, and will help you understand how it can be implemented in a future general plan or into a future bike and ped plan. It will be easier if you're able to frame it in the how cities operate and work. So that being said, what is a general plan? Every county and city in California, they're required by state law to have an up-to-date general plan. The general plan, just as a summary, it discusses the city's goals, policies, implementation actions regarding future development, capital improvements in the city, and kind of the city's future vision for everything. Our plan was adopted in 2009. I'll get into that in a little bit, but we used 2030 as our planning horizon, kind of when a lot of these projects the majority of them should be kind of constructed or kind of looked at getting constructed, or their future development by that time is set to put in some of those plans into action. So the process of the general plan, the plan is a result of a broad public outreach by the General Plan Update Steering Committee. So they do a lot of workshops with the public, surveys, monthly meetings, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to identify community issues and desires, and they're documenting them, they're writing them down, and then later they're going to use them as references while developing the plan. So as the plan evolved, it's tested for impacts on various factors, including traffic and the city's economic stability. Our general plan, it was adopted in 2009, but it was started much earlier than that. It was a 5-year process. Typically, that's a 2 to 5 year process, so ours was kind of vetted pretty well before it got finally approved. So the purpose of the general plan, it's to outline a vision for Emeryville's long-term physical and economic development and community enhancement. It provides strategies and specific implanting actions that will allow this vision to be accomplished. It establishes a basis for judging whether specific development proposals and public projects are in harmony with plan policies and standards. And what it does in there, it creates specific goals and elements to follow as you do development projects or capital improvement projects. And for example, just to give you guys some goals that are in our general plan right now are preservation and enhancement of existing neighborhoods, an expanded street grid emphasizing alternative modes of travel and pedestrian amenities, transit-oriented development at Amtrak and the 40th San Pablo Transit Hub area, regional retail district along 40th and Shellmount Streets, redevelopment of shopping centers into vibrant urban neighborhoods. And they very generalized, but they do target specific areas in our city and what the future vision holds for that area. So there's different elements in the general plan. So if you actually go in our general plan, you guys can go to the website. There's a big PDF of this, but this is it. It has many different sections and elements. So one of them is land use. There's another for transportation. There's one for the parks, open space, public facilities and services. One for urban design, one for conservation, safety, and noise, one for sustainability, one for an implementation of the general plan and the program for that. So today I'm going to be talking about the transportation element. So that's what, as a bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee, this is kind of your bread and butter and where you guys can kind of really focus and get some ideas or some policies and goals from. So the transportation, or the general plan recognizes that an efficient multimodal transportation plan coupled with wise land use planning is essential to improving quality of life, supporting economic vitality, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So the transportation element seeks to create a well-connected transportation network that accommodates cars, public transit, walking, and biking. The general plan highlights that we should try to build complete streets and design and operate these streets to enable safe, attractive, and comfortable access and travel for all users. So the goals and policies of transportation, oh, you know what, we didn't do this handout, sorry about that. I need help, please. Yeah, so I actually printed out from our general plan the goals and policies of our transportation section. So it's just good to kind of highlight some of the few that are kind of related to what we do here at the BPAC meetings. So, actually, can I get one of those?
Oh,
Yeah.
so we're on.
Two more? I can.
They're extra there.
Yeah.
I think these are, you want to do
Yeah. No, I'm good. I got one. Yeah. I could have just opened up the general plan too. So looking at the overall goals, you see the overall circulation system goals, and we're trying to create as goals comprehensive transportation system that's universally accessible and it's multimodal. For this is the Bike and Ped Advisory Committee. So for walking for peds, we are trying to create a walkable city, a universally accessible, safe, pleasant, convenient, and integrated pedestrian system that provides links within the city and to surrounding communities and reduces vehicular conflicts. For bicycling, we're trying to create a safe, comprehensive, integrated bicycle system, a system and support facilities throughout the city that encourage accessible bicycling for all community members. So inside the general plan, we have what's called a transportation facilities matrix. So the larger handout is what you have is our kind of maps of different street types that we have in the city. So they can kind of be defined in this matrix and prioritized for different modes of travel. So to ensure a balanced multimodal transportation network, the general plan organizes streets and other transportation facilities according to typologies, which consider the context and prioritize travel modes for each street. This ensures that the standards consider a facility's relation to surrounding land uses, appropriate travel speeds, and the need to accommodate multiple travel modes. So as you see here, the way it works is the dark squares indicate that that's the dominant mode of travel on that type of street. So transit street will, transit's the dominant, bicycle boulevards, bicycles are dominant. And I'll get into that, what that means in a little bit as we go through the maps. So this first map is a graphic showing our city's overall circulation map. The general plan provides this map and various other maps to show how our transportation infrastructure should be planned and developed and kind of tie in all together. So each street generally has a specific purpose and a type mode that is dominant, and that's shown on our matrix, just little black dots there, black squares, sorry. And then, so some streets serve as a parallel. So one thing to notice on our overall circulation map is that there's some streets that serve as parallel routes to get to the same destination by a different mode of travel. So as you can see, for example, Hollis Street is a transit street, so you can take a bus all throughout Hollis Street or a car. And right next to it, you can see that we have, if you look at my shadow, I guess that works. Or do I have this? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. So our bike boulevards go a parallel route, and they're a parallel route for Hollis Street, they're a parallel route for San Pablo, and they're essentially a parallel route for Showmount, even though Showmount doesn't have bike lanes and all that. But it's a safe bicycle dominant roadway that you can use. You can also use our greenways in the same manner as a parallel roadway to San Pablo. So other streets exist with multiple types of travel modes being prioritized. It's a fun and challenging exercise to balance all these priorities for our complete streets policy. It's a little difficult sometimes when there's overlapping priorities on one street. Highlights on this map include the big blue circles right here and right here. These are our transit hubs. One is for the Amtrak station and this in the surrounding area. There's a ped bridge that goes across the railroad tracks and kind of accesses these transit roadways. So this is one transit hub. The other one is at the 40th Street and San Pablo intersection right here. And multiple connections from AC Transit, Emeryville around, and all happen right here. And it's considered a transit hub area. The surrounding areas right near the transit hubs, and you'll see in other areas, are these purple highlight areas. These are pedestrian priority zones. I'll get into them a little bit later, but as you can see, we want a walkable community right near these transit hubs. There's a lot of high priority zones. All right. So this.
Could I see just to be sure I understand, that the fact that Powell Street is green there, that means it's designated as a transit street?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll actually get into it right now. So this next map shows our overall street system, but it really highlights our transit streets on here. So you can see the green streets are our transit streets, the yellow ones are our connector streets, the grayish ones are the local streets, and then you see that 580 highway.
Can you define connector street?
Yeah, I'm gonna get into it. Yeah, so if it's okay, if you guys could just wait for comments at the end, most of the questions I'm guessing I'll get to them. So yeah. So Transit Street, these are primary routes for AC Transit, Emeryville, and other public transit providers in the area. The key routes include our major roadways of Powell Street, Shellmount Street, 40th Street, San Pablo Street. But another one that not a lot of people kind of tend to forget is Hollis Street is one of our transit streets. Signal preemption is at a lot of these intersections for our buses, and it's a goal of the city to get every single signal on one of these transit streets to have signal preemption for the transit vehicles. And what that does is allows them to go through the signal a lot easier. They can extend the green time as they get detected through that area. So these transit streets, you'll see on them, you have bus stops and where appropriate bus lanes, like on 40th Street down here near the transit hub. So what it means to be a transit street, it means right here on our facility matrix. So transit is the dominant vehicle or mode of travel on here. Bicycles, peds, and autos are accommodated on the roadway, but they're not the dominant. So what it means is, so all these other ones, automobiles, bikes, and trucks, and peds are accommodated in the roadway, but if there's any conflicts or anything like that, transit has the priority. So we're focusing on transit on that. So this next, the next slide, it just shows our connector streets, local streets, and auto-dominant roads. So the city of Emeryville doesn't have any auto-dominant roads except for the freeways, highways that go through it. The transit streets are on here, the connector streets are these yellow streets on here. And so the connector streets, by definition, further on the matrix, autos, bikes, and trucks are accommodated equally in the roadway. Transit use, if any, is incidental. These streets accommodate moderate to high volumes of traffic, through traffic, and within and beyond the city. So these ones do allow through traffic. So say people coming off the freeway up here, this is now through traffic getting into our area. There's through traffic, people using Adeline going, oh, is that not shown on there? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so Adeline's, so people can go from Oakland to Berkeley on here. So that's a connector street. A local street is the same as a connector street in that it's auto, bikes, trucks are accommodated equally in the roadway. Transit use is also incidental if it's on it. But these streets accommodate low volumes of local traffic and primarily provide access to properties. Through traffic is discouraged. Traffic calming techniques to slow and discourage through automobile and truck traffic may be appropriate on these streets. Pedestrians are also accommodated with ample sidewalks on both sides of the streets. So these are all our local streets, all the gray streets in there. So they're all over. All right, so this next slide shows the bicycle system. So if you guys are following around the maps, they're on there as well. So on our bicycle system, we have two different types of bike facilities in the matrix. There's one's a bike boulevard, one's a bike path that's on a roadway. So the bike boulevard so on these streets, all these blue dashes going through our city are all our bike boulevard. On here, just like how the transit street was, bicycles are now the dominant mode of travel. So transit, peds, and autos are all treated the same and accommodated on these streets, but bicycles lead the way. So they're the ones, if there's any conflict, bikes are the overriding factor. So bicycle boulevards, the way they're treated in our city, they're through routes for bicycles, providing continuous access and connections to the local and regional bicycle route network. Through traffic from motor vehicles is discouraged on these roads. High volume motor vehicle traffic is also discouraged, but it may be allowed in localized areas where necessary to accommodate adjacent land uses. And one area that would be, so Horton Street is a bike boulevard, but we do have our transit hub area right near the Amtrak station. So there may be times of additional volume and traffic on this section of Horton Street, but it is allowed on the bike boulevard, and maybe some extra measures are needed to make it safer for the bikes that are expecting a bike boulevard on that roadway. So here's a map of our pedestrian system throughout the city. Some highlights of this includes our greenways right here that are pedestrian only. This is mixed use going in and out of the city into Berkeley. Another one to highlight is our new ped bike bridge that should be coming next year. This is connecting Horton Street to the Bay Street Shopping Center. And it now connects basically to the Bay Trail if you want to, up here, or down here by Ikea. And you can get across from Horton Street all the way into here into all the shopping districts right here. One thing to also highlight is our pedestrian priority zones. So you see all the purple areas on our map. These are pedestrian priority zones, which means that these are zones where high volumes of pedestrian traffic are encouraged along the sidewalk. The sidewalk should be wide with ample pedestrian amenities, and pedestrian crossings should be given high priority at intersections. So one of our agenda items later tonight is talking about the target parking lot and some improvements that are going on 4th Street. Pedestrian priority zone is one of the factors that we were thinking of as we were dealing with the developer on creating the plan for the parking lot improvements. So let's see. Okay, so another map that's in this. So if you see this transportation matrix, there's one else. There it is. So you can see that it shows transit. It shows transit, bike, peds, and autos. But what it doesn't show is trucks going through our city. Trucks and regional retail access routes. So one of the keys to economic vitality and stability of our city is recognizing that there are large shopping districts in the city that are regional retail destinations. In order to thrive, we need to be able to support and allow access to shoppers from neighboring cities and areas. On these streets, access to regional retail stores will be accommodated for all transportation modes, including automobiles. Strategic roadway widenings and other changes to accommodate this access may be considered, but only if travel by all modes is optimized. So yeah, we have a large area, that and destination stores like Ikea, and the Bay Street Mall that people are coming from all over to come shop here. We can't expect that only the traffic from Emeryville is enough to sustain all these businesses along these shopping corridors. And they have to actually get in here somehow, so these are the regional retail access routes that are coming from the freeways, from Powell Street, from Ashby, and from San Pablo. Another thing to consider is goods movement throughout our city. So we have a variety of locally owned businesses to go along with our large retail box stores in light industrial areas, like up in North Hollis District. Each of these businesses need to keep their goods moving through our city in order to thrive. Here are the various good movement paths throughout the city. So it's the freeway, of course, but Powell Street, Hollis Street, 40th Street, Shellmount Street, and San Pablo Avenue. So these are actually our truck haul routes too. So this is where when someone asks where they can drive through here with a big truck, this is the map that we show them. So this is where they can drive. So our policies support the safe and efficient movement of goods, but we also seek to reduce the impacts of truck operations on city streets. So by restricting these truck routes to only these major streets in the city, we're able to better accommodate other modes of travel on the parallel roadways right next to it. So yes, we allow trucks here, but now we can create a bike boulevard right here. We can create other, sorry, I'm doing it again. But yeah, so we can create a bike boulevard here by allowing trucks right here. You know, it doesn't clog all these local roadways with trucks. So with the general plan, there's additional plans and policies that help implement the general plan, and they help support, they're supporting documents to the general plan is basically what they are. Right here I have a list of, these are all available on our website as well, if you guys want to delve deeper into any of these. But just go through them real quick. There's the San Pablo Avenue Urban Design Plan, the North Halls Urban Design Program, the Park Avenue District Plan, the Powell Street Urban Design Plan. Our Parks and Recreation Department has a strategic plan. You guys are very familiar with the Pedestrian Bicycle Plan. There's a Sustainable Transportation Plan. We have some design guidelines for the city of Emeryville. We also have our Complete Streets Policy. And then we have our capital improvement project list that implements parts of the general plan. So right here you do see that we have a lot of asterisks on some of these items. I'm now in school here somewhere on all these. So all these plans were actually implemented and adopted prior to our general plan being adopted in 2009. So, yeah, they were adopted, yeah. So the general plan incorporated the ideas of the mall, and it was actually based on a lot of these. So the general plan will have all the elements of these four in them, but these other ones will add on to the general plan. So for example, the bike and ped plan, when it was adopted in 2012, it actually made an amendment to the general plan to insert all the new ideas from the bike and ped plan into there, and it changed a lot of these maps that I've printed out for you today, actually. So that's one way to change a general plan or change some the goals in the general plan. Let's see, yeah. And then, so yeah, lastly, I do have a link up here for anybody who wants to, you know, delve deeper into the general plan, or you can just navigate through the emeryville.org website and kind of find all these different general plan supporting documents. But yeah, so after hearing that, I hope you learned a little bit about the general plan and kind of why the city has a general plan and how our transportation infrastructure has been developed and planned for, and how it's planned to tie all in together, you know. So there's other items on our agenda where I do want you to keep one thing in mind, and just, does this idea conform with the framework of the general plan? So with your wish list items and other agenda items we'll talk about today. And if it does, then great. But if it does work with or conform with the general plan, that's great. But if it doesn't, then why are the reasons why not? So just keep that in mind. So, all right, I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Question?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So is this just, well, is that mainly used for future planning, is say in identifying, say, pedestrian priority zone? I was told that's used for planning of future projects, or I'm assuming we should also be looking at, if we have a pedestrian priority zone and a pedestrian pathway in there, but there's a conflict with truck traffic, then we would use this information to make a decision as to who gets the priority there.
Yeah, it's one of the factors. It's used in both. So it's,
Okay.
yeah, used for future planning and
Okay.
developments. And
So in
something that's
our
brought up.
wish list, we may want to, resolve those conflicts
Yeah.
by looking at who has priority in those zones.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah. okay.
Yeah, when this plan was adopted, we still had redevelopment, so this plan factors redevelopment into it. So we've never done a complete analysis after the redevelopment ended, and that was pretty significant, so that should be done at some point.
Danny, you want to speak to that? Dan?
I think that most of what's in the general plan is something, things that the city still wants to do. There's one plan that the city has that was really based on a project that was going to be
if you have a truck that's traveling north on Shell Mound, it actually cannot turn left onto Christie, that's blocked. It actually has to continue down Shell Mound, make a left on Shell Mound Way, another left on Christie, if it wants to get onto Powell Street there. So should that purple be extended there? Because that's the only way the truck could go.
Yeah, Dan and Navar, you may be able to answer a little bit better, but I believe the configuration of the roadways right here on the Shell Mound Loop area is different now than what was originally designed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so we have to-
it's like this is what the idea of the new development came in here. Sorry, I'm losing my mouse. The new development came in here. This could be a new configuration. If someone redeveloped the Powell Street Plaza, this would be the preferred way.
So then-
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But right now, there's a protected bike lane there, and nobody, trucks or cars, can turn left onto that street.
Yeah, so right now, as it stands right now, the trucks would go to Shell Mound Way and go in that way, yeah. Although this is still the goals and what we want the trucks and good movement to, that's how we want them to work. Yeah. Like this, not how it currently is.
So we should be thinking about changing the way it is now in order to accommodate that?
It's, the way to get those changes in is with new development to come in there and kind of redevelop those properties.
that case, we
And
would
it
do it.
changes the frontage roads
Got it.
and all those, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Before we move on, time check, we allowed 30 minutes for this, and we're at 23. I want to allow everyone that hasn't had a chance to comment, to ask questions, so just wanted to put that out there.
Can you talk about this idea of dominant mode? What does that mean?
Yeah, let's go back to the one that had it.
And then what happens as well when you have two dominant modes? So like, whether it's pedestrian and trucks, or trucks and transit. Like how does it then determine what the best?
Yeah,
is for that?
it's a bit tricky. So you go into your complete streets policy almost too. You kind of need to treat those two dominant ones equally and try to alleviate some conflicts or anything like that. A good example is basically our 40th Street and San Pablo Transit Hub area. So right now we're actually actively doing a project to look at basically new design guidelines and new vision for our transit hub area. Man, I keep on losing this mouse. But right in here and along the whole 40th Street corridor. And right here it's a transit hub or a transit street, but it's also identified in other. Let's go to the bikes. Yeah, so bikes is a class 2. It's not a dominant roadway, but actually, as defined on here, it is a dominant one as a class. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. You guys think of another good example? Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I'll just clarify,
Yeah.
for the dominant, there aren't any of them that are co-dominant for a single type, except for PEDS bikes on a couple streets. So you'll only have one of them. So on transit streets, transit pulls rank, right? All the other ones are equal in terms of accommodation, right? They can be accommodated, they should be accommodated if possible, but what that might look like on one street might be different than on another street because context varies, right? So same thing, you go down to Bicycle Boulevard, right? Some type of accommodation. When you look at the bike path and the pedestrian path, well, obviously you're not gonna have autos on those, right? But it's not a street, really. It's a facility type. Does that help answer that question though?
Can I ask a related question, because there's something that doesn't make sense to me about this. So if transit is dominant, then transit comes above everything else, but if you don't accommodate PEDS, who takes the buses? So it doesn't make any sense to have a transit dominant street that doesn't also really prioritize. And honestly, every street should be a PED street in my opinion, because who gets in and out of the cars unless it's a freeway that there's no stopping? I know that there are certain areas that have heavier pedestrian traffic, I understand that, and maybe you want better facilities, but if you don't have comfortable places for people to walk,
Absolutely. So I think a way to look at that is if we could go to the full facility map, the first one I think there.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to use my lovely finger.
Yeah,
point.
that works better.
So if you look at where the transit hubs are, right, so these big blue circles, you'll notice that those are also largely pedestrian priority zones. So there's a recognition there of that overlap. So there is a lot of overlap. These things don't exist in isolation in any way. And I think the way we're talking about rank, right? Like, and so in terms of, so a scenario could be you're on a transit street and something could be, it could be an issue of signal timing, right? And there's a lot of pedestrians there. How do you handle that to get the buses through so you can get the throughput, right? So it's not just the wide, like we talk about this all the time, right? So the intersection by Bay Street, right? Where people would like to have there's the informal scramble right now, but there's issues with timing for throughput so that buses can turn through there and vehicles can turn through there. So we have a balancing act to do. So there is a recognition, I think, that obviously if you want people taking transit, everyone's a pedestrian regardless actually if they're taking transit or bikes or whatever, right? So you'll see that if we look actually at the pedestrian one, I see what you're saying, that it's not prioritized on the transit street like that, but I think there's a general acknowledgement of, because that's pedestrian path, that's why. It's pedestrian path. It's not saying that pedestrians aren't prioritized. So there's a difference on that, right? So when we look at the map holistically, there's pedestrian priority zones. Well, that's not a path, that's not a designated street, but it's saying this whole area is gonna have a lot of pedestrians in it and it overlaps with transit. So does that help a little bit?
It helps. I mean, I think I'm trying to understand how you guys think about this stuff, and this is very helpful. I think the question I have that sort of relates to what Evan was asking is this sort of mode of like, this is dominant here, this is dominant there, but if you have a complete streets policy, then everyone should be comfortable on every street, and you know, like the whole thing of parallel streets. And yes, I would much rather ride on the bike path than on San Pablo, but if you'll notice, the bike streets don't always go through, so it's not as useful. And I know when we were first talking about the bike plan and we asked for a bike accommodation on Hollis and San Pablo, we were told, well, no, you have these other streets, you can't go on those streets. But there's businesses on those streets that I would go to if I could get there. So, you know, cars can go on all the streets except the bike, you know, so I think it can be kind of limiting, I guess, to sort of say, no, you stay on these little streets and you're not going to be comfortable, we're not going to make you safe or happy on these other streets. I get it that, you know, you want to have truck routes that accommodate truck, you know, I mean, I understand that, and routes where transit is really prioritized, that makes a lot of sense. But I guess my question is, how do you take that sort of mindset of like, we know where we want these things to go, and still incorporate the idea of complete streets, where every street should be really multimodal as much as possible?
What you're saying is why this says accommodate. We want, everywhere that has these open squares are where we want to accommodate.
Okay.
So pedestrians and bicycles are accommodated on transit streets. And on, of course, bicycle boulevards, the pedestrians. And,
So everywhere but auto
connector streets are pretty much equal.
Yeah, and that's the freeway, that's it.
That's the freeway.
The
That's the
only ones that
freeway.
are not accommodated on are the freeways.
Okay, the freeway and the pedestrian.
Whenever we're doing a street plan, like right now we're working on it on the 40th, we hired people to try to figure this out, because it's not an easy balance. But we're aware that we have to think about it.
Okay. And something just to add to that, I think Roy Street's such a great example of this. And San Pablo also, if you look at this is transit priority surrounded by pedestrian, right? So is San Pablo, right? So is Christie over here, right? So is Christie and Shenyang over here. So there's a lot of overlap, and then and when you have constraints, we only have so much like width of the street. That's why we get to play here every month, right?
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, we're over time, but I want to allow for people that haven't asked questions. I have a couple comments that I'd like to include, but I'll let David start.
Well, I just wanted to know if it's currently a place that buses are able to extend lights. Are they doing that?
Yeah. So it's on Hollis Street right now, and in a few spots on 40th and Shellmount Street. It's not a perfect system right now. We're actually looking to get a grant to get some more equipment for Emeryville and AC Transit to put some more equipment in their buses and put some more equipment at the signals, and it'll help get that working a lot better and actually get our comprehensive transit network going. You know, So there's a few spots, but not everywhere, yeah.
Was that, Svante used to be on this committee. He said that, one of the cities he knows, Copenhagen or something, bikes can do the same thing.
Yeah.
In little places, where they have, somehow, if there's enough bikes, it picks it up, extends the life of it.
Be awesome.
All right, thank you, Ryan, for presenting to us today. I think that a lot of information was informative for us, helps us understand better like the maps in terms of what priority zones are. I have similar sentiments to what Laura was saying in terms of the pedestrian and the transit overlays. I think that one can't operate without the other, and so agree with Laura's comments. One thing that I find really interesting is, and actually ironic, is that Powell and Christie, which we've talked about a lot, is actually in a pedestrian priority zone. But in my opinion, it's one of the most unsafe crossings in the city. And so that I just wanted us to think about that. We've all mentioned our concern with that, but my biggest concern is that we're outside of the study that we're doing, waiting for some redevelopment to happen there that doesn't seem like it's coming together. And so I hope that we can have more initiative with that. And the second piece that I have questions about would be the additional plans. The general plan is required to be updated every so often. Is there a requirement for the additional plans to be updated at any point?
With the flexi thing.
The individual plans.
Area specific.
The supplemental plans, or like the bike ped plan, the
The
sustainability.
bike plan has to be updated every 10 years in order to remain eligible for funding. Housing element has its own schedule, I think it's every 8 years. Most parts don't.
How often does the general plan get updated?
Generally, people update general plans about every 20 years.
So in 2020.
I believe so this planning horizon is 2030. I start thinking about it in 2025.
And if we did want to make updates to specific plans, is there a policy in place for us to allow us to do that?
Well, if you take it to the council, if the council feels like there's something that really needs to be updated, they can do it.
It's a, depending on the plan, but it was a substantial public process and time and staff time, and so it's kind of a weighty decision to make.
There's amendments and there's updating. Amendments, like if there's a development project and they're gonna reroute the street, or like Sherwin-Williams, then amendments happen that reflected by where the parks are gonna be on Sherwin-Williams. And that's just how it happens as part of the project approval. But to do an overhaul of the plan, like to start over and update it and say, what's our new general plan gonna be, that's like a big process.
Like this one here is amended through October 18th, 2016. So there were amendments that were added to that, for example.
Great. And so before we close this item, does anybody have any final comments? Nope. All right, thank you, Ryan.
The next item is the wish list, is that right?
Yeah, we're moving on to action items. 6.1 is the review of survey questions for wish list. And for this item, we've allowed 10 minutes.
What are we doing with the wish list right now?
I'm going to explain, I just wanted to get it up here. So, the last time we met, we were going to, I was going to redo the survey and send it back out. And part of that was going to be to add Jacqueline Harr's items that she got. Did I have this right? It's upside down. And so we added I added her items onto this list that you have in front of you, and I'm going to pull up on here. But there was some back and forth I talked to her about some of the items to clarify what was meant. And she's not here tonight. So the idea of bringing it back was to, sorry. The idea of bringing it back was for you guys to get a look at her items, because I think last time we ran out of time and she was just told, just send the items to Marcy and we'll put them on the list and then send out the survey. And since things have changed a little bit since then, we wanted to do the general plan presentation, and because some of those, I felt like her items, it would be good for you guys to review them before we actually have people rate them in the context of the purpose, the general purpose of the wish list. So now you guys have had the general plan presentation, one of the things that planning staff have offered to do is to take the list and just note which items are consistent with the general plan or aren't consistent with the general plan. And then it would be sent out and you guys could rate your items, and then at the next meeting we could review the ratings, that's what we intended to do.
Can I comment that I hope that we won't be unduly influenced by that, because I think one of the ideas of the wish list is to highlight holes in the bike path plan and maybe also in the general plan where there's areas that pedestrian or bike safety is not being taken into consideration that we'd like to, and hopefully when the general plan gets redone, like this will be impetus to maybe make some changes.
I don't think the idea of knowing whether an item is consistent with the general plan means that you should rate it low or anything like that. It just is advising, just so you know, so you're informed, so you can make an informed decision.
Pick a fight, it'll be the.
Well, I mean, unless you want to look it up yourself. In other words, if you know that there was this long, lengthy public process that went on years ago to come up with this general plan, and it's kind of good to have a historical perspective, just to understand current items and how they fit. And it might be that something that's on this list that isn't consistent with the general plan is something that everybody decides is something good to work on as a project.
Well, I guess, like, what would be inconsistent with the general plan if bikes and peds are accommodated on every street? Would you ever say, no, we won't do something on this intersection because it's not a bike or ped dominant intersection?
So I didn't mean to squeak.
No, go ahead, please explain it. I just am concerned, I just am wondering what would be inconsistent.
Sure. So first of all, if you want us to do this after you rank, we can do that after also. It's your preference. Whenever we take anything to planning commission or city council approval, there's what have to be findings made so that they can approve the project, right? So things such as this project is consistent with the general plan. This project is consistent with the urban design goals and guidelines. I see our planning commissioners and formal planning commissioners nodding a little bit to this. So this is a standard practice, right? And because you have to be able to see these things meet moving forward, right? Or if they don't, what are we doing about that, right? So I'm just telling you this for a reason. Your specific question was,
Well, so.
conflicting.
Yeah, what was the
mean?
conflict?
So what we actually do is we don't say in our staff report, this is just consistent. We don't just leave it at that. We go through the goals and policies, so the stapled sheet that you have there, and we say how. And it's the how that's important.
So that's what that you were proposing to do for this, is say which policies it's consistent with, basically.
Because it's a way also to see maybe holes that are still exist or don't exist.
Like what Miguel was pointing out at Powell and Christie.
Right.
Okay. Yes, that's a good clarification, thank you.
Well, when I was thinking about this a week ago, I was thinking that there are projects that might make it difficult to do something like bus lanes on Hollis or something. And projects that are in the general plan and projects that are consistent with the policies but aren't especially in, so there's kind of levels of being consistent.
I just want to say that my what I wanted to get out of this item is for you guys to review Jacqueline's items and confirm that you want this entire list to be on the survey. If you see items that you think are redundant or can be combined or eliminated or whatever, I want you to let me know. We only have 10 minutes for this item, so I just want to make sure we get to that so I can send out a survey that you all want to see.
And to confirm, those are items 24 and beyond?
Exactly, thank you for saying that.
Can I say that there's still a redundancy in item 1, between item 1 and item 21, and I would love to take Hollis out of item 1, because it's in item 21 and let people vote separately on San Pablo and Hollis. That was from the
Yeah, I
earlier
thought I
thing.
did that. Is there any extras of these floating around? If not,
One doesn't say protected.
Okay.
One says protected.
22 and 29 are also redundant.
Well, it just says, no, it says protected on San Pablo and then bike lanes on Hollis.
Right, but this,
okay.
21 just says bike lanes on Hollis.
Well, that's true.
21 says protected, and that's really
That's a
different.
good point.
Okay,
So
so,
I wouldn't take that out.
I just don't want to muddy the waters by voting on 2 streets and 1 thing.
okay,
Well,
yeah, I think, you know, I thought I had deleted that. So protected bike lanes, full length of San Pablo, and then cross out bike lanes on Hollis, and then have 21, right? Right, okay. I thought I'd done that, so I'm not sure if
But
this
you
is.
want protected bike lanes
Well, I
on
would
Hollis, or
love
just
that,
bike
but
lanes?
I don't know who, yeah, but I don't know who suggested that.
So bike lanes on Hollis, right, yeah, if you're gonna rate it, you would have to decide which, if you could have 2 separate ones if you want.
Are we deciding here at this point that we want to exclude 21?
No, we're gonna change, no, 21's gonna stay there, it's just that number 1 encompassed 21, like number 1 was 2 different streets, and I think,
I'm just
just to
crossing
keep it
out,
clear, each street should have its own
crossing out the
item.
Hollis part of number 1.
Yeah, so San Pablo, 1 is just about San Pablo, 21 is just about Hollis, but Celeste is pointing out that 21 is lacking the word protected, which is in number 1 and in several of the other bike lane ones. So do we want to add that? And you know, what's, I don't know.
You know, I'm actually happy with 21 the way it is, but
Okay.
you would, I think it was yours. It was you who put in protected bike lanes
Well,
on 1. So if you're
yeah.
okay with taking that out and just leaving the bike lanes, then I'm certainly okay with that too.
Well, actually, I think there is something floating around right now that is a possibility for protected bike lanes on Hollis that's floating around to the city. So.
Can I ask a question about protected bike lanes? Because I'm not sure I know what that is, what that means and how vehicles will get across and pedestrians will get across. Just like to see an illustration of what a protected bike lane looks like.
Now, that's moving beyond what this item is.
Okay.
And so let's stay on track. I want to look at 21, and then at this point, we're deciding whether we want to add protected to that line.
Right,
I
we
think
still
that-
didn't get to Jacqueline's items as
Yes.
far as
I'll
And
I
so-
move that we keep all of Jacqueline's items.
Okay.
Except 22 and 29.
Yeah, they're redundant.
Oh, are they?
22 and 29, what did you say?
Oh, okay.
Or
Are redundant.
All
Okay.
right,
So maybe get rid of 29.
Protected bike lanes on 40th. And some of these things might be more like a maintenance or policy issue versus an actual project.
Oh, it's 24.
So we have a motion on the floor though here, because Laura just made a motion to approve all of the items that,
Except I'll amend that to take out 29. because
Okay.
it's redundant.
so before we move on, we have to address that motion.
You mean
that's
add
on
them
the
to the
floor.
list, right?
Yeah, just to add that to the list, so we can vote.
Do we have a second for that?
I'm not sure what the motion is, sorry.
Just to add Jacqueline's items except for 29.
Add all,
Can I add an amendment to that, which is remove 24? It's so unspecific that it's not helpful. And it's also
Oh, no,
not,
I would.
Really?
Yeah.
Foliage items?
I-
Yeah.
That's a maintenance item.
That's
Yeah.
a maintenance sort of.
yeah, so something like that you could put on See-Click Fix, you know, and just write to the city and say, hey, there's a bush on Doyle Street at blah, blah, you know, please trim it or something. And you do see things like that on See-Click Fix.
you're saying it doesn't, it's too easy to handle and we don't need to put it on the wish list?
It-
Not really a project, right?
Yes, right, exactly, it's not a
Okay.
project. Is there anything else on here? So remove parking, what about number 26? Is that, how do people feel? Is that a policy issue? Is that a project?
Yeah.
So we want to maybe talk about policy, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where are we removing parking from?
What's that?
Where are we removing parking from? On number 20?
Just on these tall, big vehicles.
Near corners, it's near corners.
Okay.
It's not
Where there's
removing
no
parking.
parking.
You can't see the oncoming traffic when you're crossing.
So did we decide last time that that's actually a policy change or just enforcement?
No, that would be a policy.
There was an item like this at the public works transportation.
I mean, there are corners where you cannot pass very close.
Is
Right.
this-
It's very obscure, the visibility, so it must be a policy on that. It's just not, all the places where that should be done, it hasn't been done, probably it's never been noticed. Yeah, but, yeah. But
I mean, that's considered a
Isn't it a policy?
Yeah.
To not obstruct
they're different
visibility
ways,
at
that's
that
also-
corner.
I don't know.
I think there's an ordinance.
I don't know if there's an ordinance that's kind of like it. I don't know
Actually,
if it's
that's not-
those exact words of tall, opaque vehicles, that's how it's written, right?
Well,
Yeah,
that
so,
part sounds new.
so, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, a policy as your wish and
Vehicles
goal.
of a certain height. I think it
Yeah,
was.
policy change, yeah.
How would you do it? Put a sign up?
No trucks.
Well, I think for
You
tonight's,
must be under this height
We're-
of
we're
I
at
think
12
for
minutes.
tonight's meeting, what we should just say is, yeah, we want to talk about this at some later time.
It's got distracting.
That's okay.
We are easily distracted.
All right, and so are we removing the 24 or keeping that?
I don't like,
There was a question and wasn't answered.
It wouldn't
It
go,
sounds like we should remove it.
yeah, I don't think it'd go very far as a
Take care of
project.
it.
well, I think, can I just make an alternate argument? Why not leave it on there, and if you don't like it, just vote it low, and it'll go to the bottom of the list, or go off the list. We can take things off later.
Because you
There's a
might not
couple-
want people spending time to even think about it. and
Well,
consider
but we're
it.
thinking about it now. I mean,
Yeah.
why don't we just check a box? There's a couple other things on here that I'll be honest, I have no idea what she's talking about, but maybe other people do. Like, I just am like, no, I think that intersection's fine, but obviously someone doesn't. I'm fine with letting people vote and sort of seeing what comes of it. And the same thing, you might change, we might end up changing reduce foliage to remove foliage, because there's policies about what's planted at intersections that we might want to talk about, so that's more, there's more visibility.
All right, so the motion is add all of Jacqueline Hart's items, but eliminate number 29.
Yeah.
Anything else to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna take a vote on the motion that Laura has.
Is it seconded?
Yes. Uh-oh.
I hope you brought it up for all of us.
Everyone help Ken pick up the...
All right, so we're going, at this point, I want to open up the floor for comments before we take a vote. No comments, all right, so then we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion that Laura is on the floor here, say aye. With your hand raised, keep it up.
Okay.
All right, that passes unanimously. So that moves us to,
And I did plot all these on a map that I just sent to Mercy, just to get a visual.
Wow.
Yeah.
thanks, Rob.
Should be helpful.
Okay, so when I send out the survey, I will send out that map. I'll
If there's, and there are some edits to it, so, I think I actually deleted that, I haven't already, just,
Oh, okay.
that's all the redundancy.
Okay.
But I did, just change the language on number 1 to eliminate policy and kept number 21, so. should be good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item 6.2. This is the target parking lot. We have 15 minutes. Open bar.
Do you need the planning? No, done yet. Better than me.
All right, so as I mentioned to you last week in discussion, that's different. What is that?
Doing percent review.
How do I get out of that? we go, that's what I'm talking about. All right. So, as I mentioned last time, I was here at BPAC and folks expressed an interest in seeing this project. Target is proposing some changes to the parking lot to help improve internal circulation, also prevent backing up and issues at the entries on both 40th Street, which is here at the top. Are y'all being able to see that? Yes. And Horton Street, which is over here on the side. So this is the existing parking lot. You can see that you come in 1 aisle, 2 aisle, you hit a dead end here basically. You have to go this way or that way. And then here, if you're gonna go to the side, you have to turn immediately. And go all the way down if you're trying to get to another parking aisle. So what they're proposing is this, is extending this basically so it makes a T intersection here. So there's a lot more circulation opportunities at each aisle to get in and out. And then also here so that people can, and let me know if you don't understand when I say here, because I realize I'm talking to the mouse.
Is this big enough for people to see? Okay.
Yeah, so here we have the Horton entrance, and then you can turn, that would be south and go to the other part of the parking lot down here. So as part of this, they're making some improvements to the sidewalk areas at each entrance. So yes, this is what people were talking about, I believe, is what they wanted, and this is actually what we're talking about here is project implementation. This is in a pedestrian priority zone. We are trying to prioritize pedestrian safety in this area in a way that's applicable to this project and its scope, right? So we can't ask for the moon because it's a parking lot redesign, but we can certainly have an opportunity here to make things better than they are right now. So we're gonna look at these two areas. We're gonna look at 40th Street first.
I'm sorry, Deborah, before you move on, can you just, I just want to understand.
Yes.
When you come in on 40th Street, you can, what is this first one? It looks clearly like you can go through.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
The first, like you can go through that aisle, but what is the second one? I just can't see.
This
it.
one?
The one below it.
This one?
Yeah, can you go through there?
Yeah, so great question. Thanks for highlighting that. This is actually a pedestrian pathway going all the way across.
Right.
So when someone goes, so this is closed now, right?
Yeah.
But now traffic will be able to go through here, but they have, it's like a speed table. Like they have to go up and over the sidewalk to do that. So pedestrians can walk through here, cars can go here, but they have to come up to meet the pedestrian.
Okay.
Right?
Target is so much more progressive.
Okay. Was there a question?
No, I think I had a comment.
Yeah.
Access to Mandela from the Target parking lot would be a big improvement.
Yeah, nothing about that is proposed to change as part of this project, unfortunately. And I mean, there is an access way over here, so you can do that. They're not planning on moving it over at all as part of this. So
It's got 2 speed bumps and it's in a queue, it's a skewed turn, so it's not easy to get in and out. So if they improve the access, it really relieve the traffic in that parking lot.
okay, I'll take that feedback back for sure.
It's part, that land, that line right there,
Down
is that part of the proposed hotel? Is that why they're not recommending any improvements there?
I actually have no idea what you're talking about right now.
They're supposed to, a hotel's supposed to go in right there.
Over here?
Yeah.
It's Oakland.
Yeah.
Well,
Technically.
but I don't think the hotel is going to be right there. There's an entrance to East Bay Mud's plant right there.
Yeah, it's just past that, I think, that property. But this part here is part of the JPA, the Joint Power Authority. So East Bay Bridge Center, as you know, so here's this little line here is our border. So yes, this is all in Oakland. And then if you're over here in Home Depot and you're standing in the front, you're in Emeryville. But if you want to go to some appliances in the back, you're in Oakland, all right? So it's a funky spot because we have this diagonal going through it. So all of East Bay Bridge Center, okay, not Best Buy and everything over here, not outside of this round, but all of this, it kind of is shaped like a finger actually, right? Because Home Depot is actually down here. Right? So it's like a giant finger pointing. That's all part of the Joint Power Authority. So for example, you get your design review, that's this process, that's me in Emeryville, but you go to Oakland for your building permits. So it requires a bit of coordination to make sure that things are implemented properly. So we're working with Oakland right now to make sure that any trees that get planted in this get inspected properly for our regulations because we approved it. Also that we make sure that when we write our conditions of approval, it reflects the needs of the city of Oakland because it's their property also. So there's some coordination that has to take place for this. But it does not involve anything else, it's just these two entrances in this part of the parking lot, is the scope of the project. And there's two questions, you raise your hand first, boom, boom.
After these two questions, I'm gonna ask that we have your presentation and then same
I'm all
questions
about
to
that,
Lynn.
that sounds great.
Okay.
Sorry, really quick question, where are the doors to Target on this drawing?
So here's Target,
The entrance?
the entrance is like this kind of projected part here, the bike parking is over here.
Got it.
That path that goes underneath the 40th Street Bridge is over there.
So I'll hold off if you're going to present more on this.
I totally am,
Oh,
I totally am.
okay.
Okay.
So I'll wait till the end.
How about you get first dibs? Okay. So here we are, this is zoomed in at 40th Street. I'm gonna stand up again because I'm an active person, I guess. So here is, you kind of see faintly the existing turns, right? So at those existing ones, you can kind of whip around in the car, right? We've had some issues there. So what this is doing is not quite squaring off, but effectively for vehicles, if they're coming out, they have to make a hard right? And coming in, same thing. So if you're a pedestrian and you're walking down, you want to cross the bridge, here's your sidewalk, you jog in a little bit, you continue, you jog out. This is exactly the same treatment that we have up by the Nordstrom rack, what we did there. And what this does is it provides for a steady pedestrian level. The pedestrians aren't dipping down, they get a maintained path, and the cars have to come up and slow down and then go across the path of travel of the pedestrians. So this is considered a pretty good treatment usually for pedestrians to make like high active level driveways and stuff a lot safer.
So it's raised.
Yeah, you are not dipping down as a pedestrian. The sidewalk maintains level. As a car, you have to come up and go into the parking lot.
And cars that are exiting have a little pork chop there
Yes.
to narrow their exit.
And Ken, I saw you raise your hand, but we're gonna try and get through the presentation and come back, yeah? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Because I'm trying to follow Miguel's lead here. Don't want to get in trouble with the chair. So here we are at Horton. I'm gonna pop up again. So we have a new crossing here. So if you want to go over to the what is that? Toys R Us?
Toys R Us.
Babies R Us.
Babies
I got it
R Us.
wrong earlier. All right, again, same idea. Here's the existing. This is a huge difference. You're really narrowing the path, like the crossing distance from here to here. Now it goes from here to here. So it's a substantial narrowing for pedestrians to have to cross. Again, this is the jogged path pattern, but making it so the pedestrians have a level path, whereas cars have to go up to exit, or to enter and exit rather. And then here we have the continuation of the path again for pedestrians. This is currently a double wide drive aisle. It's going to go down to one, so that if you're wanting to go to Panera, you don't have to drive all the way around, so you're reducing circulation by vehicles in there, and you have to go up and over the pedestrian path and back down again. So I think that's my entire presentation. That's a true story. And I think I was at this slide when Celeste had a question, and then it was Ken after that, I think.
Yeah, so I'm concerned about the pedestrian walkway that now we're putting cars through. Because most of the pedestrians at going to Target are they're typically families with children. And I'm wondering if, number one, are the cars going to have stop sign at that point? And number two, are the pedestrians going to have some kind of a very visible stop and watch, stop and look, cars coming, so that we don't have another situation where cars have access and pedestrians have access, and they both think they have a right of way.
Sure.
Is about in the middle of the parking lot there?
Specifically, you're talking about these 2 points, is that correct?
Yeah.
Where you have the
Yeah,
continuous pedestrian path.
especially that middle one.
The center one
I
here.
can just see the families and little kids running down there.
So making sure that there's signage and that it's a clear demarcation. My understanding, unfortunately, I don't have the zoom in of that with me tonight, but my recollection, and I know, I don't know, Ryan, if you remember this part, but there's definitely auto-oriented signage here for sure.
But a stop sign?
Well, right now they
stop
can't
sign
go
there.
through. They can't
No.
go through right now.
Not a stop sign. I don't
No,
think.
no,
Yeah,
right
but
now there's not, but when that's put in. will
No,
there
it'll be a
stop sign?
raised table though, right?
But they think they can just drive right through without stopping? And without stopping?
Well, without a stop sign, they can't.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like a big speed bump though.
Yeah, I do believe there's yield to
I
ped
see- I-
signs
that's
for the
what-
vehicles going through there.
As
but it's not treated as a stop sign, no.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean,
those-
this is a place where, I mean, this really is a place where pedestrians are back and forth all day
Yeah.
long. That's what it's for. you know.
Absolutely.
And they're not thinking that if you're at a crossing, at an intersection, pedestrians know they're gonna be competing with cars, and the mothers tell their kids to stop and wait, and even the kids know to stop. But
They're in
here,
a parking lot.
here I
They're
don't think
gonna
they
know.
do. Yeah.
Follow-up question for Ryan, the yield to ped sign, is it similar to what we see in greenways?
What, is it a paddle? Is it that one? No, it'll be a different one. It'll be the big, yellow, and it'll be a big not triangle, diamond, there you go.
Okay.
There's a word.
We have a question.
Yeah, I really question the squaring off of the driveway coming out of Target onto Horton Street. There's a ton of traffic there and they can barely move, so is it gonna be less safe for a car to make that turn? Because you're just tying up traffic even more than it already is, and I don't know if that's better for anybody.
Sure, so, I mean, maybe you could speak to this better than I, but the part of the idea here is because we've had conflicts there, is to slow people down as they make the turn so that they can't whip around that corner. So it's intentional to make people slow down. They have to move at a slower speed to enter the driveway, which makes it safer for pedestrians and bicycles as well.
But are people really whipping around the corner? I mean, they're all
We're actually
trying
gonna
to-
look at some information about that in a
Okay.
few minutes.
Okay.
So, but good questions, and I'm writing it all down.
And let me add to what she said. So that these improvements that in here, the circulation issues in the Target area, the reason it's so congested out there is the circulation issues of Target. So there won't be as much of backup, hopefully, after these are put in.
We have a question from Evan here.
Quick question is, why have the pedestrian path intersect with the cars? It seems like you could go straight into the door of the store, right? Like if instead of having the pedestrian path here, the pedestrian path came through here, and then there would be no interaction with cars other than potentially right here, which could have a raised.
So the reason I moved it too quickly, as you were pointing, I apologize, is there's an existing pedestrian path. So it's keeping the existing one, which also, if we go back to here in the trajectory, so you have an existing pedestrian path. What you're doing opening up here is allowing this movement of the vehicles, which really helps with the circulation and congestion, particularly. That's a word, I think. And here, so this is a straight trajectory, but also if you look at like a overhead aerial, this continues the straight line. So this is like, you know, all the time we make pedestrians go out of the way and jog around, and this is one of the few examples where it's like, pew, straight through, and then the entrance just happens to be a little bit jogged to the side.
So Laura?
I want to say, I think the crossing, the ped crossing is much needed. That's awesome. People are always dashing across the street there, so that's fantastic. One of the issues that I see as a bicyclist often going, southbound and Horton, is that the stop line coming out on Horton Street is too far back for cars and they can't see. And so I'm wondering if part of this project could be that, that the cars that are coming out of the parking lot there end up not stopping at the stop sign, but pulling forward and often sort of impinging on the bike lane because they feel like they can't see well enough. And I don't know if there's anything that can happen in this project to improve their sight lines so they would be able to stay back, see well enough to know whether it's safe to leave, to pull out of the parking lot, and then pull out, as opposed to sort of drifting into my lane.
What pops there right there?
I don't know if it's landscaping, I'm not sure what it is, but the stop line is also very far back because it's behind the sidewalkers. I'm not sure why it's so far back, but it's,
Bar, you want to go to that
it's a
other
ways.
slide real quick?
Which one?
Yeah, just one of your slides that has the zoom in of 4th Street driveway.
Okay, it was far back because of the radius.
Yeah, that's-
Oh,
yeah.
so we can move forward now.
Yeah, it's already gonna be
That'll be
moving
perfect.
forward.
Yeah. And the other question I have is, I actually don't usually ride on 40th Street there, but I did recently and see why there's a conflict, because the bikes are coming down a hill pretty fast off the 40th Street Bridge. And probably, especially if they don't know what's coming, they're not expecting cars, and cars are kind of whipping around. Is this going to help that? Because cars will have to make that right turn off of 40th Street slower. Like, is there something else we could do? Do we want to put some kind of signage for bikes? Or, I'm just wondering, is there something else that we can do to make that
You mean at this entrance?
Yeah.
So actually, Brian's gonna be talking about that as
Okay.
part of the 40th Street Bridge item.
Okay.
So, when we have smaller projects, typically, this would be considered a smaller project, right? It's not a brand-new building, you're modifying the existing design, trying to improve something. You can ask for additional things to be done, but only to a certain level, right? It has to be in relationship, it has, so we tend to keep improvements to the site itself. So for example, we're getting some street trees put in, not street trees, some more trees in the parking lot as part of this redesign, right? You can't just put in bushes, right? You're gonna have to put in some trees, right? So we'll make it a nicer area. But in terms of doing improved traffic stuff for 40th Street, that's not proportional to the level of the project. But that doesn't mean we don't have other things happening at the same time in concert with this. And so that's what Brian's gonna be talking about tonight. So this is all kind of like a nice little things moving together at the same time, working together on private property as well as public realm.
Well, final comment from Robert.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up a little bit of additional experience too. You mentioned that, there's a limit to the scope of what you can do with this project, given, what you can get the property owner to commit to. But there are some additional opportunities out there as well. Bikey Space just worked with the city of San Leandro and Walmart to implement a paint and bollards only cycle track through a parking lot in San Leandro Walmart location. I know navigating through parking lots to get to what is really great bike parking at this location, but can be kind of difficult to get to it sometimes. Finding your way can be difficult. So if there is some interest and opportunity in following up on something like that, we can help connect the dots with people for bikes or some other funding that might be able to help make that happen.
And that was Walmart San Leandro, you said?
Yeah, there's 2 Walmart locations, so I think it's the east, in San Leandro, I think it's the easternmost one, but I can double check on that.
Did you say people for bikes?
Yeah. Now, and I was going to second Laura's concern as well over the controlled crosswalk now that's going to be on Horton Street. I was curious if I didn't get to see everything in the zoom in, but are there additional traffic calming features associated with that uncontrolled crossing as well? Because part of the concern is always having drivers pulling out of a parking lot looking for traffic one way and then turning the other way across the path of travel for pedestrians.
Yeah, so they have a stop bar here and a crosswalk sign on this side. There isn't anything northbound on Horton. And the existing project on the other side, that stays the same. And then as we talk about the visibility, will hopefully be a little bit improved with the turn radiuses being pulled forward. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a city street that gets, all sorts of traffic, but that might be something to flag for a future upgrade via an additional raised crosswalk or something like that.
Yeah.
Speed table.
All right, Robert, and then does anybody else have any other comments before we go? We're past time at this point.
I just want to make a quick follow-up to what
Robert, Evan, and then Laura.
I just want to say that center table that bisects the pedestrian path, kind of look at that as a downgrade of the existing walkability of that path. It's the only kind of protected pedestrian pathway through there that people use to basically traverse that entire parking lot. If all of a sudden you have to look out for cars crossing either way, and we're going the opposite direction on that particular one.
Didn't they already have a right turn there, a hard right turn?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, it's being really finicky. I'm just gonna. Okay, so here's the existing, and it goes in 1, 2 aisles, and there's a hard surface there. And the proposed is going 1, 2, 3, 4 aisles through, so that it lines up with Horton Street. And so it does cross over this raised pedestrian table, but I hear what you're saying, that it's an open area, whereas before it's not.
That's a pleasant little pathway. You have the Golden Collar, you can literally get to the opposite end of the parking lot without worrying about, a car backing up.
And the art is staying, it's just being slightly relocated.
Go with the art.
Just- Yeah, the art's just moving a little bit to accommodate, but it's basically staying where it is.
Evan?
I'm wondering on 40th Street, so right now there are a few cones that are up to prevent cars from taking a left turn along with the sign. But cars routinely take left turns there, and if, I don't know if this is outside the scope, but generally when cars are taking left turns there, they're ignoring rules anyhow, and so they go fast and maybe don't look for pedestrians or bikes for walking east. So one thing to look at if possible would be putting an actual barrier there.
So I feel like this is on.
Yeah, there is overlap,
On
actually.
the-
There is
this
overlap
list.
on your wish list.
Make target entrance on 40th at Hubbard, safe for cyclists and
That was
bike
yours, wasn't
lane. Yep, on south side of 40th at that entrance driveway.
We're working on it.
I just want to say, I really second what Robert was saying. I think the only thing scarier than riding my bike through that parking lot is actually driving a car through that parking lot, which is, it turns out to be even worse. But I do go to that Target, not often, and I almost always go by bike, and it is hairy to negotiate getting in. It's even hairier getting out. I do think this will help some of that. I hope that this will help, but I would love to have a designated bike lane in and out. I think that would be great. And, you know, I don't know how much bike traffic there is in and out of there, but they have great bike parking. I really appreciate that about this Target.
Okay, my final thoughts would be very quickly, I'd love to see the design for the Walmart in San Leandro. That sounds really interesting. This is a path that I take on my commute to West Oakland, and I see a lot of bicyclists doing the same. And so the intersection outside of Hubbard and 40th there, I know that's not part of this design piece, but really interested in looking to see how we can connect that for bicyclists and pedestrians.
I'm sorry, to connect.
The 40th Street entrance.
Like, even if it were like there's some opportunity even like underneath the ramp, if there's no solution that we can come to at like soon.
Oh, here?
Yes.
Hubbard?
So it's like, yeah, that's the one. And
So you were wondering more long-term about Hubbard connections?
yeah, I mean, like we're looking at Sherwin-Williams, and like people are gonna take that path. And so they already are. And the solution, it seemed, was to put some orange, like, traffic.
Bollards or whatever.
Something, right? But people are still crossing there.
Yeah.
I'm still riding my bike there to get to over the 40th bridge. People are using it. And so really interested in looking at how we can learn from the design in Walmart and implement some of those pieces before anything else happens there. Is it fast?
Yeah,
Okay.
a good bike connection is under the 40th Street Bridge, because you go down Halleck, and then there's a path there, and then you can go right into Target without going anywhere near any of the parking lots.
Yeah, the second what Ken said right there, if they can put any energy into improving the bike ped thoroughfare under the bridge right there, that would make a lot of people very happy, especially with 500 units, you know, going in Sherwin-Williams. A lot of people are gonna be walking at Target. So
Agreed.
Can
might
you
as well
tell
do
me,
that.
so it's, you're talking about going on Beach Street back there and going in the back entrance of the
Yeah,
Target,
there's a path that
right?
goes across.
Oh, there's something,
There's a pedestrian
Yeah, right
path
here.
right here.
really, under
Yeah.
the overpass?
Yes.
I use it all the time.
And
But
yeah,
not a bike path?
I ride my bike on it.
Yeah, it's
Really?
narrow, but.
You gotta,
it's
Yeah,
not
it's
I'm trying
right.
to visualize that,
right
because
in-
I've ridden Beach, but I didn't,
Well,
I've
that's
seen
where
people
the-
camping there.
My dog park was supposed to be.
Yeah, people camp there.
I think that's a great idea, and right now it's not ADA accessible, and so for anybody that's a pedestrian that's on a wheelchair, there's no way for them to get down from, or up even.
there's no curbs right there.
Not on the other side, but I know Target parking lot side there are.
Yeah.
And then, so that's my 2 cents. I think that we should move on at this point to the next item.
All right, thank you all for your feedback.
Thank you. All right, so we're moving on to the 40th Street Bridge design. This is item 6.3 with Ryan.
All right, so similar to Navarre, I am looking for feedback on this action item. So it's not a final design or anything at this point, so we are, looking for feedback. I'm gonna pull it up real quick.
Well, that was an action item.
Yeah.
Target parking lot.
Doesn't mean you
We
have
didn't-
to.
Oh,
Yeah,
we just had an opportunity, yes, to do something.
did we?
Will that come back for
I don't think it's
approval?
coming back. At this point, they were here for feedback. And so if you want to make an action, we can do that before we move on to the presentation. No?
I think that's direction.
Thank you.
Great. Good, we're ready there. So let's real quick. Alrighty, so we are going to be doing the 2017-2018 pavement rehab and preventive maintenance project. And phase one is going to be, well, I'll get into that, but basically this has come to BPAC prior. We showed a bunch of exhibits of different bike improvements that we'll be doing throughout the city and new striping changes that we'll be doing through the city. So this is one aspect of this same project. It's been pushed to the spring. We're going to be talking about the 40th Street Bridge. So schedule, we're looking to bid this out early 2018 and get a contractor on board to get ready to start as soon as the wet weather season ends. So we're projecting maybe May 2018. So phase one is, sorry, there's a typo there, but phase one is going to be the street rehab portion, which we're going to be grinding paving on Shellmount Street, the Pal Christie intersection, and various other areas where we're going to be doing paving work throughout the city. So it'll be little spots here and there, but those are the two big ones that we'll be doing as part of this. And then phase two, we're trying to do bid and construct near the same timelines as well. And that one is a slurry seal on 25 to 30% of the city. At this time, we're just looking at 40th Street, so at a future time, we'll be talking about those again in an update.
So the Powell and Christie, which is that intersection that we've all been talking about a lot, is getting repaved?
Yeah.
But there's no way that that can include something.
It's going to. The prior stuff that I showed shows some improvements for the ped safety there. And we're going to look into doing some more with this project. So it'll come to BPAC prior to
right.
station. So this resurfacing project is going to be incorporating elements from our ped and bike plan. So it's going to improve on-road sections of the Bay Bike Trail as Bay Bike Trail gets onto Shellmount Street. So we're going to have buffers going all along Shellmount Street. It's going to improve the bicycle movements and travel at the Shellmount Christie intersection. We have that bike signal there and a big, large green left turn lane. We'll be improving the movement to that lane using some green sharrows. We're going to provide better visibility for bicyclists in conflict zones. There's a few like right turn pockets on Shellmount Street where we'll have the green conflict striping going across. And then any crosswalk that we touched with our paver, when we stripe it back, we're going to put in high visibility ped crosswalks, so we'll improve the ped crossings like that. So basically, we're doing Shellmount Street and we're doing Pal Christie intersection. The idea was to stop our paving. This is basically let me get this. The Navarre technique. So basically, we were going to pave Shellmount Street and abut right at the bridge deck and stop right there. And we're trying to look at. We have all these new improvements that we're doing with the buffers right through here, and we have to kind of drop and kind of add and go to the new buffers. Like, really tricky to tie into the existing striping on the 40th Street Bridge. And we have.
Can you remind me what the buffers are? You're talking about not bollards, but actual.
Yeah, striped buffers. Yeah, 2 feet wide with diagonal every 25 feet. Yeah. So so we're looking at this, and we have like a lot of concerns that we're hearing from the public, from different council members, and all different retail centers, everyone, and the transit operators through this area about the 40th Street Bridge. So we thought this is a great opportunity to improve the striping on the 40th Street Bridge. So get in here. So this is what we've heard about the bridge, in recent times. It's high stress level for bicyclists traveling on it. We hear about wet weather crashes, we hear about nighttime crashes, we hear about unsafe speeds at the curves, and cars coming down the hill, improper use of the wide buffer lane, people are driving in it, dangerous merging maneuvers because we're dropping down the lane, people are kind of cutting each other off or speeding up in front of each other, and in that process going into the buffer lane, getting near bikes and all that. We're getting delays from our emergency service. So fire and police are getting delayed during peak traffic times during there. Our transit operators are getting major service delays going through this whole section. Regional retail access, so when the peak holiday traffic time comes, when everyone's shopping, all the peak weekends, when there's big sales or whatnot, bottleneck congestion that goes onto this bridge. And these are all things that we hear, and we're looking for what we can do to fix it. So right now, this is the existing striping configuration out there. So you see the 6-foot bike lane. It's a 9-foot buffer, which utilizes these little bot dots that are there. 14-foot travel lanes in each direction. The middle, the double yellow center line stripe is a kind of unique one that actually has these little yellow RPMs that makes it essentially a wider center line stripe to kind of separate this traffic. And then on the other side, it matches the same configuration, 9-foot buffer and a 6-foot bike lane. So we went out there, you know, and trying to see like what we can do out there. You know, we did some measurements along the whole bridge deck. We're watching traffic as we were out there. We saw multiple cars using the buffer, driving in it. Saw people make U-turns on there. Just a lot of dangerous maneuvers out there. It's just pretty scary. I've ridden on a bike. We actually had a staff meeting to where we actually went out to the marina. So we took Showmount Street the whole way. We had all our staff, you know, going on this and kind of experience what it's like to be on it. And scary, you know, it's high stress level for sure. So the other thing is the bot dots that are there, they're so wide and that buffer's so wide. Just people think it's a travel lane, and so far it's partly a maintenance issue, partly just the product that was used. Those bot dots pop off pretty easily. Mm-hmm. So if you go there at nighttime, it's pretty hard to see where you're going. Even during daytime, it's like you can't really tell. Is that a buffer? Is that a lane? It's hard to tell. And while we're out there, what else we saw? We saw unsafe speeds around the curve. So as they're going on the curve, they're kind of going into the buffer area. We're watching bicyclists as they go on this, and when they go uphill, they go very slow. So there's a big speed differential between the speeding cars and the bike going very slow on the hill. And then vice versa on the other side, there's bikes that are going way too fast even. And they have an immediate almost decision when people are going into the target driveway, going in the eastbound direction at least.
You mean Ikea? Oh, no, you're.
No, I'm talking about the other side, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
But same thing on this side too, they're coming in with a lot of speed, so something that we need to think about and look at. Another thing was, just the paint that's on the ground right now just doesn't have very good retroreflectivity, which is like reflection at night when your headlights hit the striping. Modern retroreflective properties will be very bright and visible, so if we were to redo it, I think it'd look a lot better, it'd be working a lot better at nighttime. So those are just things we noticed out there in the field. It's also, so we're looking at what we can do here at the at the 40th Street Bridge, and we're looking at how we can incorporate some elements of the general plan to kind of help us guide our decision. So as you can see, 40th Street and Shellmount Street are transit-only lanes. So we're talking about this bridge being restriped. It's a transit street and priority. So if there's any conflicts anywhere, we should be. And right now, in high traffic times, the transit can't get through this section. So we did a holiday study last year to where we're measuring headways, which is time to complete a corridor basically. So the time from this corner right here at 40th Street, San Pablo, to the Pal Christie intersection, on a normal day you can do it in about 5 to 7 minutes if you get all the green lights and all that. During the Black Friday weekend, it took 10 to 12 minutes to do that. And then in December, I think it was the weekend of December 17th, so right before Christmas time, this took 18 minutes plus to get across. So it's just very congested to get through that. And then some of the transit, and that's measuring with cars, that's not the transit. So transit has other difficulties when it's those high congestion times that they get stuck behind these cars, they have to stop and pick up some riders, and then they're stuck in that traffic further. So we've heard reports that there's some of the buses took over an hour to get all the way through, like their regular route. Not necessarily that from there to there, but to do the whole route was an hour plus. So it's unacceptable. So the other thing to note is that these streets are part of the regional retail access route. So part of that traffic is all these cars from different cities, neighboring cities, and neighboring areas coming in here to shop. And really, we need to accommodate that, if we want to have some economic vitality and stability, we need to have all these people shopping in our area, and that's how we pay to do all these improvements. You know, we need those dollars to come in. So other goals and policies that kind of help guide our decision on this road is you guys have the handout actually of these, so I just stole from the general plan transportation element, but we're trying to create safe, efficient, comprehensive, and integrated transit system in our city that allows for a reduction in automobile dependence. So if transit operators can't get through to our roadways, ridership's going to fall. And we actually already saw between 2015 and 2016 that Emeryville round ridership decreased. So we do have noticed some things like that, and it could be due to that, the peak traffic times. People are like, I'm not going to ride that, I'm just going to get stuck on a bus all day. The other goal is to have a multifunctional street system that ensures safe and efficient movement of people, goods, and services. And what this does is supports high quality of life and economic vitality. We also have our city's complete streets policy as a goal, and this enables safe, attractive, and comfortable access and travel for all users. Right now, it's not very comfortable for any user at the moment. Cars going on there, they feel uncomfortable making that turn. Bicyclists have high stress levels on there. The transit operators are frustrated with all the traffic, so nobody's really, very comfortable on this road. Alright, so did a collision history analysis of this section to kind of help guide our decision and kind of help us out with identifying issues out here. So we went as far as we could go back, which was 2006, and using the CHP Switter system, which all neighboring agencies and police departments report all this data to CHP, and then they congregate it for everyone to view and grab. So what I did, originally I was just only doing the area right at the Powell Street Bridge. So I was looking at like a little bit probably from Hubbard Street to a little bit past where the bridge deck ends, and kind of looking at that. And then as I was doing this report, I was just noticing all these accidents that are just outside of that. I'm like, oh, you know what? I can't ignore these, So I added them into the report. And so I went from Horton Street to the Ikea entrance signal. So it makes it a more together corridor, But basically, yeah, so from that, we saw that there's an average of 4 collisions per year on this corridor from the Ikea entrance to the Horton Street intersection. And of these, 1.75 are vehicle-to-vehicle collisions. These are, vehicle on vehicle. Other ones were vehicle to bicycle, 1.17, which that's a troubling number, per year. Vehicle to ped was a little bit less often, 0.25, and then vehicle to fixed object was 0.83, which is still not ideal. But one thing to note is we do get a lot of vehicle trips on this roadway. So if you compare it to other roadways, this isn't that bad, but it still doesn't mean it's good, So these are still issues. I don't have any figures. Next time I come to talk about this, I'll have some better figures of per our yearly trips, how this compares to the Bay Area average, but I haven't had time to get that together yet. So the hot spots of this area are these areas right here. So surprisingly, it wasn't on the bridge. I thought we were going to have a lot more collisions on the bridge of cars not being able to take the turn, and then they hit the side or hitting a bicyclist or something like that, and the reports don't show it. So what happened was, what I saw from the data, and I'll show you in a second, but basically over here we had a lot of fixed object collisions, so single driver accidents that they hit like the median, or they hit a light pole or something like that. That could be attributed to them coming through here too quickly, and maybe in wet weather situation on the asphalt. So they're going from concrete to asphalt, and it gets a little slippery possibly. And right here the paving could be improved a little bit, so there might be a little bumps or something like that. So there's some issues there. First, I'll talk about this one. So the Horton Street intersection had a lot of accidents. Right here, cars just slamming into each other, rear ends, a lot of that. A few people running reds. People not really knowing how it seemed like a lot of people were running the reds on Horton and getting hit by a car going on 40th Street. So that could be attributed to they weren't able to get through the intersection in time, so they went late through it or something like that. So it's hard to say. The other big movement was the right hooks right here, right turners hitting bicyclists. So we had quite a few bicyclists hit right here at this intersection from right turners. There's a few left turners that also hit bikes as they went through the intersection, but it was one of the two of either left turners making going on a red light or the bike went through a red light, so it's hard to tell. And then here's the big one. So this one, nearly every accident that actually occurred here was a vehicle to a bike. So we had about 2 left turns that were bike, or let me go to this next one actually. I got a diagram. Alright, so here's all our accidents from 2006 and on. The red dots over here are fixed object collisions, so drivers hitting fixed objects. So we did have a few that hit the walls. The blue ones are vehicle-to-vehicle accidents. So you see a lot of rear ends, and a few just random ones, lane shifts, merges. So merges, these two are like, they weren't head-ons, but they're side swipes from vehicle going opposite directions, both of those. Over here in the intersection, we also have all these blue ones, vehicle to vehicle. Here's all our right turn conflicts with bicyclists, and right turn with the ped, right turn with the bike, right turn with the bike. So all these green dots are bike to vehicle collisions. The yellow ones are ped to vehicle collisions. So right here, there's 2 that came from the left turn, 6 collisions right here on this right turn movement over here. So the other thing to note, just because there's a collision with a vehicle and bicyclists, it doesn't mean that it was the vehicle's fault. There's like probably 2 of these 8 were the fault, the bicyclist going the wrong way on the path, or one was inebriated. And same thing over here, there's like 1 or 2 of these where the bicyclist was a fault running a red or something like that. So it's still an issue though, you know, it shouldn't, it's still a conflict zone that can be set up for that type of stuff. So let me get back to the other presentation. All right. So yeah, so we have a lot of collisions here. Yeah. There we go.
Brian, we're at 18 minutes.
Okay, going a little far. Sorry, I'll speed it up. All right, so we have some proposed improvements based on what we saw out there. So we're trying to do new lane dimensions with an additional lane in the eastbound direction. And sorry, I had a different version of this, but it's going to be an additional lane in the eastbound direction. That additional lane will be a transit-only lane on a limited service basis during the peak period. So we need to still determine when that peak period is to define those hours, but we're going to be trying to make it a limited service transit-only lane. The proposed configuration is to have 6-foot bike lane, 3-foot buffer, 13-foot travel lane in the eastbound, that'll be the new lane, a 12-foot lane, and then a 13-foot lane going in the westbound direction, and then the same configuration, 6-foot bike lane, 3-foot buffer. In the buffer zone, there will be the diagonal stripes, they're not shown yet, and they will be flexible bollards is what we're proposing. So we're proposing to do the stripes every 25 feet, and then the bollards offset of that basically. So there'd be a stripe, then a bollard, stripe, bollard going throughout the whole thing. Additionally, we're going to put some chevrons for the curb to improve the safety at the curb, to kind of get people to slow down going around the curb. We'll also do some curb warning signs, just warning of the curb and kind of advising vehicles to slow down at the curb. The other thing is that we'll be trying to do a green conflict zone at the Target driveway. So with these new improvements from Target, and actually, so Navarre, you didn't give us credit, man. But Target's original design was to leave these radius driveways. So we were actually able to argue our point by pointing out that this is a pedestrian priority zone, and got them to do first the Horton driveway as a pedestrian friendly driveway. And then we were able to argue the point to make 40th Street as well. So we actually got 2 wins on them, and it took a little bit back and forth, but we were able to get there. So basically what we're proposing is to do, and this is kind of the same kind of striping configuration that you'll see at the public market as it opens up, is that we'll have the lead in to this area to be a green zone. So we want cars not to be into this. So we don't want them to get in there earlier. The existing configuration is dashed right here, getting into this driveway. So that leaves the cars getting into the bike lane and then making that turn. We want them to stay out here and to slow down. They have to slow down for this new driveway configuration because it's more of a 90-degree angle that they have to make on it. So they'll be making this turn later and coming in there, and they'll be able to really see the bicyclists are there. The other thing is, as they exit here, they'll be able to see that this is a bike zone. And then we had all these collisions over here as well, and we want to really treat the Horton Street intersection as well. The only problem is here we can't do the same type of treatment of having the people turn so late. We are going to have it as a green conflict zone, so cars could enter this, but it's yielding to bikes, you know. So that's the proposed area. So we'll have this big ingress lane right here as well.
Is there a green, what is that green box going into the Target? Is that?
Sorry, this is the new driveway. We try to mimic what was shown on the Target plan. It
Okay. But that's not actually.
This is from AutoCAD, so you have bright colors to show on aerial, so you have, ignore the greens. So,
It's not green striping?
Yeah, no, it'll be a concrete driveway is what it'll be.
Evan, did you have a comment?
Yeah, a quick question
Yeah.
on this side. Would it be possible in this conflict zone, since we saw that a lot of accidents are happening with cars turning in
Making the left, yeah.
Making the right from 40th into the parking lot? Would it make sense to put hard bollards in that section before so that cars are not tempted to drive through there, but instead actually go straight?
It's something we could look at, and one of the things we were going to mention, this project, if it gets approved and all that, is we're going to make it a pilot project, so it'll be 1 year of that, and if we're seeing a lot of these flexible bollards being hit right there, maybe it is time to put in some more inflexible bollards or something like that, you know? Yeah, so.
You're gonna get a street sweeper to be able to
Yeah,
clean.
yeah.
Question, Ryan, how many more slides do you have?
Like 3.
Okay, can we hold the
Yeah.
questions? till-
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other thing to really help these movements that are out here, so we saw all these collisions that happen right here and from the left turns. We'd really like to put out some yield signs out here early for the vehicles to see that it'll be flipped around. This is just a version of the sign, but to yield to peds and bikes as they make this turn. And then also one here in the median for this left turn movement that they need to yield to bikes and peds. So they're aware that that's, you know, something that might happen out there. So like I said, we're going to try to do this as a pilot project. We're going to properly study this before we install, so we're going to get some counts for all modes of travel on the corridor. We'll get the vehicle speeds. We've gotten some of we got all the collision history already. We'll probably do some more analysis on that. And then we'll do a before and after study after 1 year to determine if these improvements helped out the corridor and see if we can improve upon it or something like that. So, and then that's just kind of an overlay of it. So it's still in design, so we are looking for comments if you saw anything that maybe could be improved, and we're still, you know, flexible right now, so, yeah.
All right.
I have one comment. If you could improve the lighting when you have these driveways, it would be very helpful, especially at night. I'm not talking about the whole street, but just right where those nearby poles are, if you could put amplified lighting there, it'd be great.
Yeah, we recently did LED retrofit on the street and on the Lumac poles, so it should be brighter right now actually. But yeah, I can look at that, see, do lighting analysis on it.
Okay.
We have Evan and then Laura.
No,
Nothing. Oh, David. Sorry, David.
So this whole bridge is in Oakland?
Yes.
It is in Oakland, yes.
Is it just like,
We own the right of way and the roadway. There's some agreement for that where Emeryville owns this whole section.
so it's not like the parking lot where,
Yeah, that one has a joint powers
Design.
authority. Yeah, this one, it's our design, our control, our maintenance responsibility. So.
Okay, so I have a bunch of things to say. Could you go back a couple slides to the one where you're showing the sample bike lane with the soffit? So you're talking about 25 feet. Look at that picture, that's not 25 feet, that's like 6 feet. I think 25 feet is way, way too far apart. I think that's one of the things Emeryville historically has done, is put And I think you can, if you want an example, look at the existing conditions on, I think it's Christie there, where you can almost not even tell it's a bike lane because the bike lane insignia are so spread out that you could just go for these long blocks with nothing. So I think not just on the bridge, but on Shell Mound, when you're gonna put the buffers, 25 feet is way too far. I think the same for the bollards. I think the bollards have to be almost continuous. You can look at Market Street in San Francisco, their protected bike lane as an example of what I think is a good density of bollards. I want to say I don't usually ride over the 40th Street Bridge because it is unpleasant. It's not unpleasant because of the buffer. The buffer is the thing that makes me feel like I will live to the other side of it. It's unpleasant because there's a freeway right overhead, so there's like pollution and trash kind of falling on there, and because cars go really, really fast. That's what makes it unpleasant. The road, it's just not super pleasant street. I don't know that this change is going to make it pleasant. I think it won't. I think there's a logic behind the impetus for this about the traffic backup that I want to challenge. Because I think there's only so many cars you're going to get into Bay Street. Yes, we want people to come shop at Bay Street, but if you try to cram more cars in there, there's an end point to that. And I think at Christmas time, we're probably at that end point. There's only so much parking. And what I would like to see the city focusing on for those congested times is how can we get more people there by other modes. And I think the 53rd Street Bridge will help because it'll make it easier for bikes and peds, or whenever that, whatever millennia that happens in. I think making it, getting more transit through there is a good thing. I understand it's hard for buses when it slows down, but I don't want to sacrifice the safety of bikes for something that happens, who ride there every day, to commute, for something that happens a few times a year, for 1 month of the year. It gets backed up. Everywhere is backed up at Christmas time. And I also don't think that's why the Emeryville round ridership is down over 1 month on one route. It's probably down because it's extremely unreliable, but I don't know. I do want to say that I think it's also a proven myth that adding more car travel lanes will reduce congestion. What it does is increases car travel historically. If you look at I-80, that's a perfect example. They widened it. It's more congested than it ever was before. I don't know if the same factors are at work here. I would really not support this unless that third lane was a dedicated transit lane. And I'm not sure why only eastbound, like where is the backup? Is it eastbound, westbound? And I also want to say that I don't think any of this is gonna, I think the striping around the green paint is great and on target, but I don't think adding another traffic lane and getting rid of the buffer is going to reduce accidents. If you have more traffic and if the cars are closer to the bikes, I think that might, the accidents you described, I don't think this is going to have a big impact on it. I think, I do agree that the way it's done right now, the dots are hard to see, and I did drive over it in a car and ended up driving over the dots for a bunch of the way because I was at night. It is very hard to see. I think what happens is every few years the city redoes it and they're really reflective, and then over time it comes off. But during my riding on this bridge recently, most of the cars when I was there, it was a limited window of time, were respecting the shift, and I really appreciate it because I am going very slow up that hill and they're going really fast. So I like the idea of the curb marking and anything that can slow cars down on this bridge. But I think that if you're going to get rid of that buffer, the bike lanes have to be way more protected than what's being envisioned right now.
All right, we have several comments and not a lot of time, so I want to make sure that we keep it short. And if anybody that hasn't spoken wants to say something, then let me know. Okay, we have everybody. All right, is it possible to keep it to like a minute or two?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just say, maybe we extend the time on this because this is a really important.
Extending the time on this extends the whole meeting because this is pretty much the last action item.
This
so
will be brought back in December as well. So
Okay.
yeah, just
this is a good introduction, and I think that we definitely have our thoughts on things, and I want to hear them too.
Yeah. So I think probably the best way to get people into alternative modes is to make the transit more effective. And I live in the marina, and it can be scary during the holidays, during the peak season, because you're trapped. You're trapped getting in, and you're especially trapped getting out. The eastbound is the more difficult. But if I were to get from the marina to San Pablo Avenue, you can't do it. I mean, other than walking. So my choice then actually is to get in my car, drive over to 65th Street, go to San Pablo, and then come back, because it literally can take an hour.
Unless there's a freight train there.
Whether you, well then you go further and cross somewhere else. But, you just can't do it. And so the Emeryville Road becomes useless to get from the Marina to San Pablo Avenue during that time. And so I would support having a dedicated transit lane, it's at least during the holidays. And, I guess I don't have a firm opinion about the other times.
We have Tom.
What I was gonna say is you got 2 lanes of traffic on each side of the bridge, and you've got 1 lane of traffic on the bridge. It just goes to show, they're gonna speed up in order to do this. It's fluid mechanics, basically. No, it is, really. They're just gonna, and they are gonna go 35, 40, 45 on there. I don't know if it makes sense. I think a nice picture of that escape median would make a lot of sense. And protected bike lanes.
Put the medians next to the bike lanes, protect the bike lanes.
Yeah,
Forget-
you could do that.
Put it in median.
Let the cars have their head-ons and bikes. Or 2-way protected bike path on the north and east side.
Right, we have Evan, just going around in a circle, and then we'll get to everybody. Rob?
I just want to make sure when you determine the width of the bike lane, one of the issues with that bridge and also coming down the Shell now is the grade between the gutter and the asphalt, and when they pile on layers of asphalt, it basically makes about a foot of that unusable. You steer into the gutter, you're going to bail. So unless that's going to be flattened in some way, then consider that part of the bike width of the bike lane.
Yeah, I've heard that too. It's a big difference. We haven't found a solution yet, but yeah, we're looking at it.
So debris, huge part of that bridge. Hopefully, that's factored into this. That more street cleaning is going to accommodate that. Broken glass on that thing constantly. And also, I just want to clarify, right now it's 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But you are talking about reducing it to 25?
That sign was just an example sign, so yeah.
It's an advisory for the corner.
Yeah, it's an advisory for the corner. We haven't determined what that speed will be yet. So
But
it's just an example.
the general speed limit will stay 30.
Yeah.
Right now, when people going from 40 over that bridge, they've done it. Like, I don't know if it's just instinctual, like when you're getting ready to go up the hill, you just hit the accelerator. So whatever you can do to...
Yeah, from what we saw, part of that is the merging maneuver. People are speeding up to get in front of the next person, and they keep that speed the whole way. So that's partly that. There's other things to consider there, but yeah.
And that comes down to PD enforcement, unfortunately, and not a lot of people get tickets in the city. I've never gotten one.
Robert, do you still have a comment?
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick too. I'll start with the things that I really like about this plan. The green enhanced striping on the downhill portion I think is really great. I think if there's any opportunity to widen the bike lane at the corner, as you're approaching the corner to Horton Street even a little bit more, typically when you have a wider bike lane, drivers tend to merge into it more when they're making a right. And so if they actually enter the bike lane before the turn, then that reduces some of those conflicts at the intersection. So by actually widening the bike lane a bit, we might be able to increase that. I also like the initiative to add some physical protection to the bike lane. I would suggest not going with standard bollards because, just based on experience, the drivers are going to get them and you're going to be replacing them every week. If you replace them, I would really highly recommend something more substantial like K71 bollards, which are a little bit more thicker and more visible.
So the spring, right?
And ideally interspersed with between those and armadillos to actually provide a little bit more physical protection that will hopefully stay in place throughout the length of the pilot. The part that I'm not so happy with is the lane increase. I think that will basically just result in increased speeds along the bridge, which is the real danger. Speed is the thing that turns injury into a fatality. And I don't know if you've seen pictures or anything like that before the buffer was installed, but it was basically just constant paint from bumpers along the side of the wall. happens, but it's much less. It's because that distance between the lane and the bikeway. That's the the wiggle room basically. Without that, basically you bring people in conflict with even faster motor vehicles, which is just adding to the danger. You talked before about 40th being a transit priority street, and I totally agree with that. And in terms of, you also talked about conflicts between modes, and I totally acknowledge that's a problem on 40th Street as well, but the conflicts are not between bikes and transit, the conflicts are between cars and transit. So what you're doing with this project is you're asking bikes to give up some space for transit that will mostly be a benefit to car drivers. So what you should be doing is talking about a transit lane, but on the rest of 40th Street, not on this section. This section is working the way it is, and it can work even better with the increased physical protection in the barrier area. But don't give drivers any more space than they need physically, because they're just going to take advantage of that. Look towards the rest of 40th Street in order to speed up transit speeds.
Thank you. Anybody else from the committee here before we move on?
I wanted to take a look at the accidents. When we looked at the bike ped accident, the bike car accidents, were they necessarily going along 40th or were they crossing? Because they were all down, none of them were on the bridge.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and actually leads to something that I had some input about, those intersections there, so that's good, let's pull that up.
So these ones, get my mouse. Yeah, these ones are just to show. So they're all right there in front of the driveway. That's the question.
So there's definitely bikes going this way,
yeah,
turning right,
yeah,
or going straight. Or
yeah, and
whatever.
even these the two right here, the collision happened at the driveway. It's just to show that that's where they came from. They came from the left. Yeah.
It's just interesting that there were no bike involved accidents anywhere else. Like
Yeah,
on
not
this
on the
whole
bridge.
bridge
Yeah.
stretch that
Yeah.
you're saying is scary and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was surprising for us as well.
So what do we take from that?
The buffers are working.
Looking at the intersection at Horton and 40th, I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for us to include bike boxes in the design, because it is turning onto a bike boulevard, and if I'm trying to make a left there from that lane, that's something that we don't have in Emeryville yet that I'd love to see. This might be an opportunity, and so even if it wasn't a left turn bike box, maybe just a bike box that's marked to let cars know that that bikes are going to be here and be able to be in the front. So that's my suggestion for that intersection. And then still, I mean, the other intersection there in Hubbard, like really looking to you guys to like find a solution for that. Every time I cross there, I see people waiting in the median as pedestrians to cross, and so this seems like a connection to this project, but I'm not seeing anything addressed there. So really curious about like what are the future plans if it's not included in this, like when can we see that improvement?
Yeah.
Use Halleck, that's the improvement. Go ahead.
So right now it does feel like the time to improve that intersection.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to see something that's a consideration to that crossing there. And I don't have a solution for it right now, but like when you come back, like, can you show us something that might be a solution for that?
Always stop with it. Always stop with it.
Yeah, we can look at something there. We'll bring some back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to the next items. Thank you. Yeah. Does anybody want to take any action on this item, because it is an action item?
I will propose that we limit car travel lanes to one in each direction, and a permanent bus lane would be fine or at least as our sort of suggestion to your team. So 2 car lanes, 1 car lane each direction only on the project.
I'm second that.
In a dedicated transit lane?
Or just leave it the way it is.
Or just
Either way.
I mean, it is a transit, in the general plan, it is designated as both having bike lanes and as a transit corridor. So I think transit would be awesome if there were a way to. Yeah, I don't, maybe, what, do you wanna try?
Can I just make a suggestion, because I
Yeah.
think we're kind of low on time? Can we ask, that this is going to be on the agenda next month, right? Can we maybe hold off on making any motions until we see maybe a revised design that takes some of the comments into consideration, and maybe we'll be closer to something that, I don't know, that's just a thought. Because I sort of agree with you, but I also really like what Robert said about, let's add bus lanes elsewhere on 40th Street, and let's leave the bridge alone, because it is, because of the curve and everything, it is a scary place, and those buffers do really help that are there right now, so.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm able to vote on that yet until I see the final design, and do like some of the elements that you showed us today. So I'd love to see more before we make any more decisions.
Are you withdrawing the motion?
Yeah, I'll withdraw, that's fine. And it sounds like you withdrew your second.
Yeah, I just feel like there's so many other things I would want to move about the project, but I kind of want to wait and just see other iterations.
Passing a motion's like talking to council or something. They're still working on it anyway, so.
Yeah. Is that jive with
Yeah, that's fine.
what
Yeah.
you're
Yeah, that's fine.
going to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item. That motion was revoked. This is regular information items 7.1 with the planning department report.
I think we skipped 6.4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
6.4, reaching out to neighborhood cities. I think we can add it to the next agenda because she's not here to.
You wanna do
talk about
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So then
Okay.
moving on, 7.1, planning department report.
All right, I'll go first. So now that we're both here, we have the concurrent planning and the advanced planning. So I'm the advanced planning. On the 40th San Pablo Bus Hub project, the staff and consultants have met with staff from AC Transit and from the Emeryville Round ETMA, Emeryville Transportation Management Association, to discuss existing and planned bus operations, potential for reconfiguring stops, requirements for managing bus-bicycle conflicts, which they all said was very important to them, and potential improvements to the bus stops. These discussions will inform development of initial concepts for review by agencies and the public this winter. And then we hope to have a public workshop in like February or March. So we're working on that. And I thought that it might be, as I heard you talking about parking, you might want to be aware that there's a parking study happening, and there's a survey, and there's going to be meetings. So this flyer tells more about it.
There's some on the table.
Yeah.
And there's online Survey Monkey. I sent out a message about that also
That's right. So
today. Yeah.
That's
Plus, okay to repeat it. Yeah, and forward it on to anybody else you know that might park in Emeryville.
Oh, my turn. Okay, I was just waiting. All right. So my only current planning updates are that you may have noticed that the 47th Street Bike Share Station went in. That was reviewed by City Council on October 17th. The approval letter was issued the following day, and the next week on the 25th it was installed. There is initial error with it showing up in the wrong location on the bike map. They got that taken care of really quick, so it seems to be going well.
You said 47th Street?
47th and San Pablo. So 9 out of the 10 initial wave have been installed because of the delay of the Black Bear Diner. I think we talked about that. They are going to be moving forward with a location up by Public Market near the Urban Outfitter area there. And that will hopefully be in a year. I'm guessing they should be turning an application for it soon. It kind of depends on the pace of the street getting done there and everything, but that's going on there. And then if you had questions about the project that John mentioned earlier, the Shell Mail, you want to direct those questions to me or to our senior planner.
Thank you.
How was it?
The Greenway?
It's under construction.
So is that in the Public Works?
Yeah, we'll talk about it in public works.
Okay. You pop quiz me there, Rob. That's not my project.
All right. Any comments or questions about that report there? All right, moving on, we have the Public Works Project status update, item 7.2.
Sorry, I had Nancy go print it out, but I got it in an email, so I'll start with it, I'll have Mike add to it. But basically, we have a video detection project where we're going to be installing new video detection cameras at 23 signals in the city. That's going to be starting later this month. So you start to see some different detection technologies going up there, and all the detection should be working a lot better. So as it gets installed and like throughout the city, I'd love to hear feedback from you guys if you guys notice something's off or anything like that. Yeah, so I'm always open to hear about it, and we can get someone out there to fix detection if needed. We're gonna try to be bidding out the 2 new signals, one at Doyle and Powell and one at 40th and Harlan. So we're looking to bid those out later this month and hopefully to start construction early next year. Let's see, the other one is, so there's some traffic calming that's gonna be proposed on Horton Street, 45th Street, and 53rd Street with the Sherwin-Williams development. They are going to be holding a community meeting 1 week from today at 6 p.m. at the ECCL. So just want to make that announcement that they'll be there presenting their traffic calming exhibit and plans and trying to get some community feedback. So it'd be great if we could have some feedback members
Monday,
attend.
November
13th.
13th at, and
yeah.
it's
6 p.m.?
Yeah.
There's one at 4 and one at 6, I believe.
We have a 6 on our calendar, so I think, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there's 2? Oh.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
Okay.
I'm wrong. I'm backing it up.
Okay. But anyways, the idea behind that, they're gonna be getting some community feedback on that idea. They'll revise their exhibit and actually bring it to the BPAC hopefully in December. So that's what they're planning. So that may be one of the agenda items in December.
So on that meeting, if, I don't know if anybody is interested in getting the definite time and.
13th to 6 p.m.
It is
Yeah.
13th at 6, okay, got
And
it.
I'll explain, there's another item, there's another meeting that happens twice, but I'm just mixing it up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got it, okay. I just wasn't sure, so 6 p.m., okay, good. So, and at ECCL.
Ryan, could I ask a question about the video detection? There was a gentleman that came to the last meeting that was complaining about the overland at 65th intersection. And my commute actually goes that way, so now I've noticed it every time I drive there, but it seems like there's literally times where every light is red and I'm just looking around going, whose turn is it? There seems to be something broken.
Yeah, we're going to be replacing the cameras there. I'd have to go out there and see what's wrong with it. But another project that we're going to be doing is retiming that whole intersection over the railroad crossing. So we'll get it then. But I'll try to get something. So it's for the turning movement from Overland onto 65th?
Yeah, from 65th,
65th.
heading toward Showmound. Crossing the railroad tracks there.
Okay.
That stoplight right there.
Okay.
It's mysterious.
Okay. So it's just skipping you, or?
Yeah, it just doesn't register.
Well, stay tuned, it sounds like it'll be improved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the note. And then, Mike, you want to talk about private development and Greenway Park?
Yeah. So. The public market project is running a little bit behind schedule, but if you've been out there, you've seen that they've opened 2 halves of 2 streets there, half of the new Market Drive and half of new 63rd Street. They are basically shooting for full completion of that project by the new year. It was originally going to be early November, and that hasn't happened. But a portion of the realignment of Shell Mountain has actually been paved, partially half paved, so that gives you a good idea of what it's going to look like in the future. And then let's see, the Greenway, Powell Stanford Greenway, it's another project that's behind schedule, should be complete by December 1 timeframe or so. The work of the contractor is really high quality. I'm impressed with the way things are looking there. We've had a few changes that have slowed things down a bit, but should be open by the 1st. I think that's it.
Thank you, Mike. All right. Any questions about that last update there? No. Evan?
Yeah, could you explain what the bicycle treatment is going to be at Public Market?
It's going to be green painted bicycle lanes and with conflict zones in the skip green paint markings.
And the width as well?
I don't know off the top of my head. I believe it's 6, but.
Okay, I heard a rumor it was 4, and I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't true. Okay, good.
No, yeah.
Good.
Okay,
Four.
pretty certain it's
Approaching Shellmount Way
approaching Shellmount.
At the bottom end by the hotel?
at the intersection. There's a.
Oh, yeah, where you have a bike lane between 2 vehicle lanes, it's typically 4. That's a standard minimum, and the standard minimum next to a curb is 5 feet. Okay. So for a little pocket between the 2 vehicle lanes, it's 4 feet. Yeah.
And they go behind AC transit stops, the bike
Right.
lanes.
2 AC transit stops toward the southern end of the project that they go.
What do you mean by behind?
There's a AC transit island.
So it goes around it, so there's no conflict? Is that
Right,
what you're saying?
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So the bikes will be flowing while the traffic is stopped for the bus that's stopped.
Getting close. We're almost there. All right, moving on. We have future agenda items, 8.1, to discuss what we want to add. So far, we have one item from today's agenda, which is 6.4.
I have 2, 40th Street, the bridge, right?
Got it.
And also the wish list,
And then the wish
right?
list, right? And then also, I think we're actually, I think we've got it all, because Sherwin-Williams is supposed to be coming in December.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we'd have any time for anything else.
It's a full agenda.
We never have those.
Well, here, I'm just looking at the list that's in the minutes. It says for the December meeting, comment on council study session, suggested projects
Oh, right.
for Councilmember Medina to bring to council the next day. She had asked
Right.
for us to put that on
Yep.
the agenda, so I
Yep.
think that seems like a high priority.
So
And then-
we might end up having to put off Jacqueline's item for the, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that was on December was the walk bike tour of sites for potential improvements. I think that could be put off because it's not going to happen until next year, but I just don't want us to lose sight of that.
Yeah.
We have to
Put
do
it on
some,
for February?
yeah, we just have to do some advanced planning or it's just not going to happen.
Right.
But yeah, maybe next time we can, yeah, just, yeah, assign somebody to do some pre-planning and then we can do that, so that we come with a more fleshed out item in February.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
We have, are those all the
I mean,
agenda
for the
items?
future agenda, is that good? Okay.
I mean, there's a bunch of stuff on the November list that didn't make it on, so
Right.
that might, but I just would love for us to keep that for the future.
Right, oh, the bike theft item.
There's been some movement in San Francisco that I think that we should look at. And so that's an item that I don't want to, that we don't have time in the next agenda anyways.
Okay.
But there is something that's happening in the other side of the bay that I think
Okay.
that could influence what we do.
Is that, how do we get info on that to bring that here?
I can send it to you, Marcy.
Okay.
It's just in terms of like identifying what a chop shop is and
Okay.
making some verbiage or policies around that. I can
Okay,
send
so
you-
that one would be maybe February also?
Yeah.
Okay, and the data from C-Click Fix, are we thinking February? Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's just not enough time for all of the stuff, I guess, okay. All right.
Are we ready to move on?
I am, thank you.
Okay. So now we have item 9, announcements from our comments. Rob?
Someone reached out to me, I think this was with mentioning, sounds like exciting. I don't know if you've heard of Color Wheel Oakland. It's like a mobile bike repair station. They just signed a lease in Emeryville, so Emeryville's going to finally have a bike repair shop. That's exciting. I don't think it sets up in the parking lot of Cliff Bar on Mondays. Okay. Kind of reached out to me, so if you read the Able Eye, we'll have a story on that.
Okay. It's like a mobile bike.
Yeah, but I think he's setting up like a permanent station. So
Okay.
it's always baffled me why Emeryville doesn't really have
Yeah,
bikes.
yeah.
I mean, he's not going to be selling bikes, he just refurbishes them and fixes them.
So if on Hollis or on 65th?
I don't know the
Okay,
exact
it's
location, sorry.
If-
Yeah.
You can send it and I can forward it to everybody.
Okay,
Yeah, great.
And also, did you mention that Caltrans is initiating a district for bike plan? I think there's
Right.
a bunch of meetings for that one.
I sent a message out about
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, I think the email, so.
Thanks for reminding us.
Question about that. In terms of the Powell and Christie intersection, is this a space for us to give input to Caltrans about that?
I don't think that's a Caltrans intersection, is it?
It is.
Well, just the whole corridor, yeah, it would be.
Oh, that's a good
So
point.
just wanted to point that out. You know, I can't make it to that meeting, but there is a webinar also planned after those. And so if we can't make it to the meeting, at least we should give some input about that.
Yeah, you can give
intersection.
comments if you can't make it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
I just have a quick question, which is, it was very dark when I came over here. Did the street lights just not get switched yet for daylight savings time? It was really dark and there was no street lights on Horton or Park. I'm assuming it's an adjustment thing. I don't know how, whether the
That
lights
sounds-
are.
Should
Was
be,
there
but
work
just
being
a
done
little
over
sound, so
there?
it should-
It should have
They're not
automatically done
timed,
it?
it's.
Okay, well, maybe it was just some random thing. I just thought I would
Huh.
mention it.
Check it out.
Yeah.
And Ryan, when is the southbound vehicle counter gonna go back into Horton?
It's in the shop.
A member wants to know.
I do like to see how fast I'm going on Horton. It really has nothing to do with. I did have a question about that, which is, since the vehicle counter's not there, but is it, like, the thing you can see that tells you your speed isn't there, but is it still counting vehicles?
No.
Oh, okay, so it's
No,
the same
that's
unit.
right.
It would be interesting to me, but I wonder if we're even gonna have it, like, whether, it would be an interesting thing of whether people are going faster since they can't see that they're speeding, like how effective that is, but
That would be interesting.
sounds like we're not gonna.
We can
Right.
turn off the display. We can do that experiment at some point, where you turn off the display, but you're still collecting it.
Gotcha, okay.
I wanted to throw in one final thing, just to acknowledge the pedestrian death of Ian Ashley, which was November 1st a year ago. A moment of silence is appropriate, but a year has gone by. I reached out to her family, and they said the driver didn't even get a ticket for this. So I've never seen the report from this. I reached out to the chief to find out if fault was ever determined. But I'd love to know what the follow-up to that was.
I thought the driver was found at fault, that's what I heard.
I can just speak that it's still an ongoing
Still
litigation.
ongoing?
Yeah.
The fault was the city's for maintaining places out.
Well, there's a lawsuit going on, we know that, so.
Well, and I think sometimes the police departments, when there is litigation, they just, my wife was hit by a car, and that was what the San Francisco police told me when I was like, hey, why didn't you cite this person for getting in the bike lane and hitting her and insisting that she had hit the car, which was not what happened. But they said, well, usually people just deal with that in litigation. I don't know if that's just something that they do around bike car accidents, or if that's the same approach the police take with car accidents, if they just let everybody work it out civilly and they don't take a position, I don't know.
All right. Okay, so final thoughts for me. One thing I enjoy about this committee is that you guys are all very vocal and passionate about what we're working on, so thank you for that. I'm going to ask for your help in helping me get these meetings wrapped up in 2 hours. And so we're after that today, and we had a lot of good discussion, but looking forward to the next meetings, just really asking for your support with that, because it's kind of a challenge. But thank you for all great.
You're doing a good job.
Thanks. All right, so I want to call this meeting at 7:57.